Welcome to the Scramble. When they reached the Scramble, Achi took his place at the location specified by the battle plan Kano had drawn up. Hitomi was only a few meters away. Whatever happened, he was in a good position to shield her from harm. There were 3 minutes left until the appointed rendezvous. Achi wondered what sort of person was going to show up. Still, he knew he couldn't scan the crowd too much. He needed to act as naturally as possible, so Alphard wouldn't be suspicious. He risked a glance over at Hitomi. Maybe now wasn't the time for admiring, but he couldn't help but think how cute she looked. In some ways, seeing her there felt similar to when he'd first seen her that morning, in the very same spot. The difference was that this time, it wasn't just Hitomi's good looks that made him find her so attractive. They might have only spent a few hours together, but in that time he'd learned a lot about her as a person. He knew what was important to her, what her worries were, her wants and desires. I don't know if you know all of this, it's only been a few hours. And also he learned what kind of kind-hearted person she was. Achi recalled what had happened back in the workroom. Even though her own life had been in danger all day, Hitomi had shed tears for his father and his sister. No, I trust Kano. He's like in real detective mode now. He's fine. He got a level up. She really understood people's grief and suffering. What do I do if I can't protect someone as good as her? Achi muttered under his breath, clutching his right leg. His shin was throbbing wickedly where the pipe had smashed against it. He'd been okay walking so far, but any intense fighting the leg might just give out. But he couldn't let himself worry about that now. If it came down to it, he'd be a human shield to protect Hitomi if he had to. It's weird, right? Because the roads are like filled with people trying to escape, but the scramble looks like it's just like any other day. Achi looked at his watch. Only 1 minute to go before 7 p.m. He glanced again at Hitomi and saw her eyes widen with surprise. Quickly he followed her gaze across the plaza. He spotted a tall white man approaching. Is it the teacher? Is it the teacher? Is it the teacher? That'd be real fucked up. Wait, we have a problem. No, wait, we don't. We have a jump. I haven't said we had a jump. It is really funny when everyone's in keep out at the same time. Hitomi, I don't like having to do this, but we can't wait any longer. Seeing the look of determination on Kano's face, she gave a tiny, reluctant nod. Her shoulders began to tremble. Hitomi, it'll be alright, I'm just a little nervous, that's all. She had a right to be nervous. Alphard was after the antiviral that she had in her bloodstream. Once he had it, Hitomi would become a liability that he'd want to dispose of. And right now, the only person who could keep her safe was Kano. He clenched his jaw tight and tried to look confident. Please, just try to relax. I'll protect you with my life if I have to. Protecting Hitomi is my job. Oh my god, it's the between episode jingle. Achi, you're back. Ooh, different though. Extended version. I said I'd see you through to the end, didn't I? I said I'd see you through to the end, didn't I? Yeah, you did. Hitomi gazed back at Achi with grateful reassurance. Ahem. Kano cleared his throat softly. But Achi and Hitomi continue to stare earnestly at one another. Eventually, the tough-looking young man standing behind Achi spoke up. I got 30. Will that be enough? Yeah, Kano nodded. That'll be fine. This fucking song. More importantly, have you heard what we'll be doing yet? Catch the bad guy, keep Shibuya safe. Same old thing we always do. The guy flashed a grin. You got it, Kano said. We'll be counting on you then. With 30-odd people at their disposal, they'd be able to encircle the meeting area no problem. The preparations were all set. It was time to confront Alphard at last. Alright, detective, Achi shouted. Let's do this. Kano gave a firm nod. Nine minutes later, 6:59 p.m., Kano and the others were in position around the scramble. Each subtle tick of the second hand was like a sharp prod to Kano's nerves. His whole body was stiff with tension. They could not let themselves fail. There was too much at stake. Here, now. Hundreds of thousands of lives were on the line. Oh my god, FMV. With Shibuya on lockdown, the area around the scramble had been seized by panic, and there had been multiple traffic collisions. The sidewalks were crowded with scared people. Overturned cars and abandoned motorcycles clogged the streets. Overturned cars? Seriously? Amidst the chaos, emergency vehicles sped by at furious speeds. But the fire and emergency personnel, and even the police, were short-handed. And the whole of Shibuya had begun to look like a war zone. The main roads had been blocked to normal traffic, and trains weren't stopping at the stations. In effect, the city was in a state of complete shutdown. Kano glanced again at his wristwatch. 6:59 p.m. and 10 seconds. 11 seconds, 12 seconds, 13 seconds, 14 seconds. He scarcely remembered to breathe. Oh yeah, Minorikawa's gotta be around here too, right? Hitomi stood in front of the statue of Hachiko. She wasn't carrying an attaché case this time, but the moment was otherwise a strange mirror of the stakeout at 10 o'clock that morning. FMV Hitomi! She looked terrified. Kano couldn't blame her. The criminals weren't after some case full of money this time. This time they were out for blood. Her blood. Kano did a slow scan of the area. Achi was standing not too far away. His companions were strewn about here and there, carrying on as normal. Here in Shibuya, those guys fit right in with the crowd. And they had the area around Hitomi completely surrounded. Yet again, Kano looked at his watch. 6:59, 35 seconds. 36, 37, 38, 39 seconds. He forced himself to take several deep breaths. He focused on the sound of his own heartbeat and exhaled until all the breath was expelled from his lungs. And then, it all started. Kano's cell phone rang. I've got him. It was Daisuke. The organ trafficker who devised the kidnapping. It's him. Where is he? Kano asked. Is he close by? I've got him on camera now. He's on the other side of the intersection. Kano looked out across the scramble. There were so many people that it was hard to tell who was or wasn't suspicious. Can you describe him for me? The tall foreign guy. The one wearing glasses. A tall foreigner. Kano's eyes drifted over the crowd. It's the teacher! It's the teacher! I knew it! Aha, there he was. As he got closer, Kano's eyes went wide. This man was someone he'd met before. Leland Palmer, the lecturer from the English department at Hitomi and Maria's school. Is he Alphard? Palmer was walking right toward Hitomi. Hitomi didn't seem to have noticed him yet. When Kano glanced back at his wristwatch, it was 7 p.m. on the dot. When Hitomi realized Palmer was approaching her, she was too stunned to react. He walked directly up to her, the corners of his mouth curling up into a smile. "Hello, Hitomi," he said in English. "How are you doing?" "Professor Palmer? What are you doing here?" Hitomi's voice came out in an anxious squeak. "Why, I'm here to take your blood, of course." This time he spoke Japanese, and with an easy fluency, totally different from his usual manner of speech. "I'm the one who injected you with the UA virus. See, I told you that he was part of the terrorists, and that he was the reason she got infected in the first place, was her teacher. And then when she recognized someone, then I was like, oh, it has to be the teacher. It's the only loop left." Ah! "I've been waiting so long for the opportunity to arise. It's been quite agonizing, you know, spending 6 months and more pretending to be a mild-mannered English lecturer." "Professor, you're Alphard, aren't you?" "Let's get down to business, shall we? Neither of us have much time." Hitomi stiffened. "Please, tell me the laboratory password." "After I have your blood. This will only take a few seconds. I've got a device here that will make the extraction quite simple." "No way. The password first." "That would violate the terms we already negotiated." Hitomi and Palmer glared at one another. "All right," Hitomi said at last. "Why don't you negotiate with Kanan instead?" "Kanan?" Hitomi took her cell phone out and dialed. But the phone rang repeatedly, and Kanan did not pick up. "What's going on?" Hitomi's face went pale. "Come on, Kanan." Kano, standing near enough to overhear their conversation, grew increasingly anxious as he watched the pair stare at the phone. What was the right move here? Should he keep waiting? Let's give Kanan a couple seconds. I don't think we need to rush, but there's a chance that he has already taken Kanan out. He had to hope talking with Kanan would work out. Kano waited for the call to go through, but Kanan never answered. Had something happened to her and Tatano? Kano felt his heart pounding. "Now then, shall I take what I came here for?" Palmer took a step closer to Hitomi. Kano reacted instinctively. "Freeze!" He drew his gun and trained it on the criminal. Nearby pedestrians scattered in fear. Seizing the moment, Achi darted in to protect Hitomi. Do we go to Achi? Palmer let out a tiny sigh. "So, you're breaking the terms we agreed upon, then?" "I don't negotiate with terrorists." Kano inched his way closer, his point of aim never wavering. "Hitomi," he shouted, "call Kanan again." Again, Hitomi dialed her cell phone. Palmer opened the attaché case he was carrying. "One more move and I shoot," Kano shouted. But the terrorists ignored the warning, producing a set of small glass vessels from within the case. "If you want to shoot me, then shoot me," he said. "Assuming you don't mind this getting scattered about." Is that? Surely you don't need me to explain. Stanley was right. Alphard had weaponized the virus. Doing his best to conceal his horror, Kano tried to sound defiant. "How can I even know that's real? It was entirely possible this was all a bluff." "Ah, indeed, these could all be fake. Would you care to test that theory?" Palmer flashed a coy smile. Holding out his fistful of vials, he began to tilt them slowly back and forth, letting them clink against each other. They were fake. No, maybe they were real. Kano couldn't quite decide. And he couldn't take any rash action if there was even the possibility these were the real thing. Did you come here to carry out a suicide attack, Mr. Alphard?" "Hardly. I have no desire to die here. All I want is to get a little of this girl's blood and then go quietly on my way. But that all depends on you, doesn't it?" His face was overflowing with confidence. Kano couldn't shake the feeling that something was off here. Something about this man's demeanor hinted at something. "Well then, what will it be?" Palmer continued. "Will you condemn the people of Shibuya to death?" Cursing inwardly, Kano lowered his gun. Palmer flashed a triumphant grin, then resumed his stroll toward Hitomi. She stood frozen on the spot. "Susumu." The shout had come from Achi. Do I jump to Achi? Well, I mean, I don't have a jump here, but do I go back? In an instant, a dozen members of SOS headed toward Palmer from all sides. "Tough luck, pal," Suzumu said. "Turns out we're not actually innocent bystanders." Now it was his turn to grin. "You're completely surrounded. Give up and tell us the password now. And just for the record, we ain't scared of no virus." The tough-looking young men radiated bravado. Without hesitation, they closed in around the kidnapper. "Surrounded? You certainly don't look like police." Palmer cast a bemused glance around himself. "You're right about that," Achi said. "I mean, just take a look. I gathered up a bunch of people who love Shibuya more than their own lives in order to take your ass down." He kept Hitomi shielded behind him while he spoke. There's no escape," he declared. "You've lost." "Lost? Me? Well, it sure doesn't look like you're gonna get away." Palmer grimaced at Achi's words. "I see. Then it appears our negotiations are at a close." Enough of the high and mighty act. Suzumu stomped aggressively towards Palmer. "Hey," Kano snapped, "easy now." They couldn't risk a scuffle sending the virus crashing to the ground. "What a shame." Palmer swung his right arm up high. Oh my god, he threw it in the air. Everyone watched in dismay as his hand shot up. The vials he'd been holding sailed upward against the backdrop of the evening sky. "Look out!" Achi shouted. "Catch him! Catch him!" The hurling vials scattered and began to fall. It seemed impossible that Kano's team would be able to keep them all from shattering against the ground. The SOS members fanned out, positioning themselves as best they could to intercept the falling vials. Kano likewise prepared to catch one that was headed straight for him. As he did, he caught sight of Palmer speeding away. Kano made up his mind on the spot. There was only one right call here, and he needed to make it. He had to protect the lives of the people nearby. This is Kano we're talking about. He had to protect the lives of the people nearby. As much as he wanted to apprehend this criminal, he couldn't sacrifice innocent people to do it. Kano caught one of the vials deftly in both hands. Carefully, he examined it for damage. Seeing that the vial didn't appear broken, he let out a sigh of relief. Then he looked around for Palmer, but there was no sign of him. Damn it. The mastermind had gotten away. Vanished without a trace. I wonder if I go to Achi's story, maybe I could fix this. Amidst the frenetic crowd of the Scramble, a lone criminal could blend in an instant, becoming just another pedestrian. Trying to find him now would probably be a hopeless endeavor. Failed capture. Oops. There are no hints after 1800 o'clock. Okay, I think something needs to change here. I don't think going after Alphard here is the play. I think something needs to happen. So we're gonna jump to Achi. Yeah, but that's all fake. The Leland Palmer, and I mean, faces and hair and stuff can change, you know? They don't even have a picture of him, just like a description, you know, just of like seeing him, right? You know? That's not enough. Was this guy Alphard? The man arrived in front of Hitomi and began speaking to her. Hitomi, Maria, even Achi's father. This must be the guy who was responsible for everything. Achi felt a pressing urge to flatten him right then and there. Still, he knew he couldn't blow his cover until Kano gave the signal. Suppressing his raw emotions, he readied himself for action. Protecting Hitomi has to come first. I can't let anything happen to her. I have to set aside my hatred. Right now, I just need to focus on catching this guy. He hurt me, and I'll hurt him back. That bill's gonna come due. I feel like he would protect Hitomi first, so maybe we'll do that. That might come at a consequence. Why hasn't it happened yet? Why hasn't Kano given the signal? Freeze! Suddenly Kano rushed forward, his gun drawn. Ignoring the pain in his leg, Achi dashed for Hitomi as fast as he could. He cut in between Kano and Alphard quickly, pulling Hitomi out of danger. Hitomi, Kano shouted, call Kanan again. Shielded by Achi now, she brought up her cell phone and dialed the number. But some time passed and there was no answer. Had there been some kind of trouble on Kanan's end? Looking increasingly worried, Hitomi tried several more times. Then Alphard withdrew some strange vials from the attaché case he brought. Kano's face wavered with alarm. This had to be the terrorist's trump card then. Kano and Alphard were having some sort of debate. Achi couldn't hear the specifics, but tensions were clearly running high. Kano instantly lowered his gun, or hesitantly lowered his gun. We don't have a keep out for Kano, so there's no reason for that jump. Alphard flashed a haughty, confident grin. Looks like it's time for our trump card. Suzumu! Achi shouted at the top of his lungs. At his signal, the gang emerged from the crowd, moved en masse to hem Alphard in. Surrounded. Now the terrorist was visibly at a loss. You certainly don't look like police. You're right about that, Achi said. I mean, just take a look. I gathered up a bunch of people who love Shibuya more than their own lives in order to take your ass down. As he spoke, he made sure to keep Hitomi shielded behind him. The pain in his leg was getting worse and worse, but he tried his utmost not to let it show. There's no escape, he declared. You've lost. Lost? Me? Well, it sure doesn't look like you're gonna get away. Alphard grimaced at Achi's words. I see. Then it appears our negotiations are at a close. Why did he still seem so confident? Something definitely didn't feel right. He really doesn't care if he survives. This is just a bluff. He knows he can't get away. No, I think he just does not care. He really doesn't care if he survives. Oh no! He was going to unleash the virus, accepting that it would kill him too. Alphard met Achi's eyes, and seeing the haunted realization there, the terrorist flashed a wicked and triumphant grin. Enough of the high and mighty act, Suzumu shouted. He began to stomp toward Alphard, but he didn't reach him in time. The vials in Alphard's hand went sailing high into the air. Look out! Catch him! Catch him! Achi gestured for his comrades to fan out across the open space. The vials seemed to almost vanish against the backdrop of the evening sky. How many of them had the sky even thrown? There was no way to tell for sure. Even if one of them broke open, it would be a death sentence for Shibuya. They had to make sure they caught them all. Spinning around in the midst of the chaos, Achi saw Suzumu catch one vial deftly. Many of the other gang members appeared to have done the same. Look at this guy's face! I guess both of them. Yeah, I caught the vial. What up? There's one more over there. The desperate shout had come from Hitomi. She spotted a vial sailing in a high arc away from all the SOS members. Damn it! Achi launched into motion, ignoring the searing pain in his leg, but the falling vial was so far away. They were done for. He was sure of it. A pair of hands shot out and safely grabbed the falling vial. It was Kano. The tension drained from Achi's body. We did it. We didn't break a single one. Damn it. Kano cursed under his breath as he stared out into the throng. Alphard had disappeared. They hadn't been able to capture him after all. Which meant they'd lost their last chance to get the password for the lab. They hadn't just lost. They failed utterly. But we did everything we could have, right? We didn't make any wrong calls. We'll just have to leave everything to Kanan. Have to trust that she'll be able to save Maria. Achi stared up into the night sky, trying to reassure himself. Failed capture, number 73. Okay. Let's think about this. So both of these have ended in failure. We do have a couple options. Kano has options to not grab the vial. But if he does that, Achi can't make it in time. There might be something further up we need to do, but I think for now, let's keep playing around with some of these choices. Let me see, what were Achi's choices again? He had choices involving the emotions. He also had a jump. Kano has a lot of choices, including waiting for Achi, talking to Stanley differently. jumping into action quicker. So what happens if he jumps into action quicker? At this point, they couldn't count on Kanan anymore. Kano rushed into action. Freeze. Kano drew his gun and trained it on Palmer. Nearby pedestrians scattered in fear. Okay, we're back here. We do have one more choice, and that's to try to call out Alphard's bluff. But I don't think that's going to do anything. You can't let that loose here. And why is that? Because if you do, you'll be infected too. True. But so will all of the innocent bystanders around us. A thin smile crawled across Palmer's face. Did you come here to carry out a suicide attack, Mr. Alphard? Hardly. I have no desire to die here. All I want to do is get a little of this girl's blood and then go quietly on my way. But that all depends on you, doesn't it? His face was overflowing with confidence. Kano couldn't shake the feeling that something was off here. Something about this man's demeanor? Okay, so this goes back to this. Would you have one more choice? And that's to ignore a capsule. He had to chase after Palmer. It didn't matter if he didn't grab the vial. Something about the way this was playing out made Kano sure of it. Calling upon his rugby training, he broke into a sprint. I always forget that he's a rugby player. Deftly dodging through the crowd, Kano kept Palmer in sight. He would catch him. One way or another, he was going to bring this bastard down. Steadily, he gained on his quarry. At last, he drew within striking range, and immediately dived into an expert tackle. He caught Palmer around the waist. Their bodies collided with violent force. It is a really good photo. Oof! Palmer went down, flailing, and hit the pavement hard. Even then, he tried to resist, but Kano straddled him and held him down. Tell me the password, Kano snarled. The kidnapper sneered triumphantly. You made the wrong choice. Wrong choice? The UA is out now. Now nobody can be saved. You've just killed everyone in the city. No, Kano shot back. Nobody's going to die. And what makes you so sure of that? The way you fled the scene just now. If the virus had really been in those vials, you could never have hoped to escape infection. Running off on foot would be pointless. Palmer said nothing, which means there was no virus in those vials. They were just a decoy in order to buy you time to escape. Now Palmer gritted his teeth and glared up at Kano. The look on his face confirmed the detective's hunch. But more importantly, it was your eyes. You didn't have the eyes of a man who was putting his life on the line. My eyes? Who do you think you are, Sherlock Holmes? I know full well the look in a man's eyes when he's willing to die. In the back of his mind, Kano replayed the moment when Tatano, doused in gasoline, had marched into that financial office to talk down a would-be arsonist. Now then, the password. Give it to me now. Kano tightened his grip on Palmer's collar, but the man just gazed back at him with an icy glare. Let me have his Tomiosawa's blood. That was our original deal. Kano wasn't surprised. He'd known it wouldn't be easy to get him to talk. Maybe it really would be impossible to strike a deal with without Kanan. But if getting her on the phone wasn't an option, Kano had to figure out something else. Sweat beaded on his brow as he cast about for ideas. Then he happened to catch sight of a car that had been overturned by an accident nearby. Is it the theater troops van? Gasoline had spilled from the vehicle, creating a broad, dark puddle on the pavement. Kano took out his handcuffs, then cuffed Palmer's arm to his own. Come with me. Jerking his captive back to his feet, Kano led him over to the car. Then without hesitation, he sat down in the pool of gasoline. Yanking on the handcuffs, he pulled Palmer down beside him. The old gasoline trick. Kano pulled a lighter from his pocket. Palmer snorted. And just what's this supposed to be, hmm? Tell me the password. Or else what, you'll light the gas? You'll be burned to a crisp yourself. Yeah, probably. Kano heard the casual desperation in his own voice. What the hell are you thinking? The smile vanished from Palmer's face. Kano scowled down him. Even if I die, my friends will avenge me. I just want to know the password. I know, it's just a weird saying. You did miss a typo earlier, but don't worry about it. It was a while. It was like, you know, before the internet issues. It was long before the tacos. I don't even remember what it was anymore. I don't think Kano would get revenge, but I feel like Kano would totally be a my friends will avenge me kind of guy. Yeah, life before tacos. Even if I die, my friends will avenge me. Kano met Palmer's stare dead on. Palmer and Kano locked eyes, both refusing to back down. Yeah, but I feel like Kano's stupid enough that he would say that. The scent of gasoline fumes filled the air around them. Kano knew that the slightest spark could set off a massive fireball. Also, I kind of want to see this happen. Calmly, he flicked the lighter on. I feel like that should have been enough. You can't be serious. Palmer's eyes fixed on the tiny flicker of flame. The password? You value your life so little. The password. In his mind, Kano could see the pages of the Dick Diary clear as day. Dick Dictum, number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. Palmer glared in defiance. Kano brought the lighter closer and closer to the gasoline. He could practically feel his own life growing shorter as his hand descended. And yet he felt no trace of fear. His body was numb, his senses strangely distant. Time seemed to slow. The world around him dissolved into a blur. He was surprised at how calm, how remote he felt, here in the midst of this life or death confrontation. And then, far in the depths of Palmer's eyes, he saw the barest hint of doubt. He fixed his gaze on that point of weakness and did not look away. Palmer's shoulders slumped, perceptibly. Now Kano was certain of it. This was a man who'd never put his life on the line before. Shizuo's words sounded in the back of his mind. You need a cool mind, but a fiery spirit. A detective without both of those is worth nothing. Thanks, pretty honey. Let me go. Promise to let me go and I'll tell you. Is that your answer? I don't think you quite understand the situation here. Kano brought the flame still closer to the gasoline. This is a wonderful picture. I love this so much. Palmer's eyes went wide. No longer was he able to hide his trembling uncertainty. Alright, I'll tell you. Just put that thing out. The password first. His voice a strangled snarl. Palmer gave him the password. Kano extinguished the lighter. How's this gonna help though? We can't get in touch with Kanan. Oh, but maybe we can call Osawa. If Osawa's there... Pulling out a cell phone, Kano dialed up Osawa. As he did, he recalled his last exchange with Stanley at the electronics shop. So we have our jump to Stanley. Looks like we'll be able to have that beer together after all. But Osawa didn't answer. Kano guessed immediately that something was amiss. Detective? Achi's voice was full of worry. I've got Stanley on the line. He says that Detective Tatano? Oh no, we all blew up. Did the cell phone spark the gasoline? Kano didn't get to hear the rest of Achi's words. A thunderous blast hurled him to the pavement. Where had the explosion come from? His lighter certainly hadn't set the gasoline ablaze. Kano hadn't been that clumsy. So what had happened? Only one possible answer came to mind. Palmer had blown himself up. But that only confused Kano further. His captive had already given up the password. What would prompt him to set off a bomb at this juncture? As he was losing consciousness, Kano continued to rack his brain, but he found no answers. This guy could be a front for all we know for Alphard. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, he was ID'd by Daisuke, right? So he is, whoever Leland Palmer is the person that told Daisuke to do the kidnapping. But that doesn't mean that he's Alphard, right? That could just mean he's a proxy. But can Achi save the day? Why do you still seem so confident? The desperate shout had come from Hitomi. She spotted the vial sailing in the high arc away from all the SOS members. We also have a jump point for Stanley, so we could go see Stanley. It was now or never. He threw himself into a headfirst slide. Nice catch! The gang members broke out into cheering and applause. Achi got to his feet and looked around, but saw no sign of either Kano or Alphard. Hey Achi, if you're looking for the detective? Suzumu gestured with his chin. Achi looked and saw Kano far away across the scramble, chasing after Alphard. Soon both men were lost in the crowd. Achi would have charged off in pursuit as well, but his wounded leg made that impossible. Get him, detective. He murmured under his breath, we're counting on you. Achi's cell phone rang. It was Stanley. I mean, Achi didn't know. Mr. Stanley, what's going on? Something isn't right. Huh? I can't get in touch with Tatano, Stanley said. What about on your end? Anything unusual going on? No problems here for the moment. Detective Kano managed to catch Alphard. Did he get the password? Don't know. I think he just finished his interrogation. Could you put me on the line with Kano? Yeah, give me a sec. Achi turned to Kano and shouted, Detective! Kano turned to him as well as he was flipping his own cell phone closed. I've got Stanley on the line. He says that Detective Tatano... Kabooey. Before he could complete his sentence, a massive explosion blasted Achi off his feet. Tiny bits of metal tore through his arms, legs, and torso. I think this is a bigger explosion than the car, so this must be a bomb. Which, I mean, Kano did suspect that Leland Palmer blew himself up, or Alphard, or Whoever this person is. He crashed to the ground and crumpled like a tattered rag. There were screams coming from all directions. But as Achi started to fade from consciousness, the voices got softer and softer. Through the haze of pain, he saw a bloodied arm stretched out before him. He saw a hand that had been clasped with his hand all day long. The fingers feebly reached for him, and Achi intertwined them with his own. It took the very last of his strength. Then both hands subsided into stillness. It's a bad end, but it's a very beautiful bad end. We got the lover's bad end. A mysterious explosion. Alright, so we do have a jump point. So maybe we take that, but maybe that's too late, right? I also don't even know if it works. Did I even check it? It'd be far in the future from where we were with Stanley. It does work. Maybe Stanley can solve this issue. Maybe the phone is the key to all this. Maybe Kanan is the key to all this. Turning his attention back to the handbag, Stanley searched it more thoroughly and found a photograph tucked inside that he'd overlooked on his first inspection. What the hell? He stared at the picture, swallowing the lump in his throat. It was a photo of Maria, standing next to another young girl. There was something written in marker on the back. Me and Kanan, 7:30. Stanley hurriedly flipped the photo back over and looked at it again. Wait. Maria has not interacted with this Kanan. We are taking Kanan's word that she is Kanan and Maria's friend. When Kanan got to the electronics department, Maria had already collapsed, right? I mean, she got there, watched Maria collapse, and then she came out. What does this mean? The girl in the photo of Maria looked nothing like the Kanan who had been there at Endo Electronics, who had left with Maria and Tatsuno just a few minutes ago. Remember when I was like, when he was looking at the photo, I said, maybe Kanan is the key to all this. But if the girl they were working with wasn't Kanan, then who was she? She's Alphard. No. Stanley felt his blood run cold. Could she be? Was she Alphard? Oh my god. The more he thought about it, the more it all added up. Assuming Alphard was masquerading as Kanan, the whole sequence of events suddenly began to make sense. She was strikingly audacious and fiendishly clever, but she hadn't outmaneuvered them just yet. As luck would have it, they still had a chance to stop her. And at long last, Stanley could see the outline of Alphard's plan. So I don't know if this counts. I had seen a clip of Kanan the anime, and like I know the anime designs are different because I've also seen Minorikawa in anime form. But the hair was very different. And I like that always gave me the impression that maybe this Kanan was something else. But again, that could always been the anime being different. And also I hadn't seen that like a picture of her in the anime in a very long time. But it is it's like too convenient, right? This Kanan, you've definitely tiptoed talking about Kanan this whole time because of this, yeah. We never see her in the the Maria's memories, right? It's always the face is always obscured. She happens to know the plan about the kidnapping, but never explains how she knows about the kidnapping. She knows that Hitomi's gonna get kidnapped, and she tells Maria. She tells Maria so that Maria can get kidnapped. And then she placed a tracker on her just in case. She probably didn't expect her to have amnesia? Wait, no, hold on. This part doesn't work then. Because Maria knows what the real Kanan looks like, right? Alright, the part that's getting me right now is the Maria telling Hitomi to get to the party an hour later. How did Maria know that? Kanan tells Achi and Hitomi. Kanan tells Achi and Hitomi that she told Maria and gave her the necklace. Maria herself is drawn to that necklace when she doesn't have amnesia. Maria also knows the necklace is a tracking device. She turned it on. So someone gave her the necklace and told her it was a tracking device. And told her that her sister was going to get kidnapped. These are all things. Well, we don't know that part. Hold on, shut up. We only know that part from fake Kanan's point of view. Right? I don't think Maria turns on the tracking device. But I don't think Maria ever tells anyone once she gets her memories back or herself that she got kidnapped in place of Hitomi. For all we know, that necklace could have been given to her by Leland Palmer at the party, as Leland Palmer was at the party. Anyway, let me keep going, I'm sorry. I just wanted to have a big thought. But extracting the DDS from Hitomi's blood wasn't enough. Akoshi Pharmaceuticals still had the drug at their laboratory. So right now, Tatsuno is missing. Fake Kanan is not answering the phone, obviously. Osawa is not answering the phone. We assume that fake Kanan has the Tanaka password. And that she's using this opportunity to get Osawa. But why did they go about it this way, I wonder? The antiviral's value came specifically from having a monopoly on it, which meant that in addition to obtaining the drug himself, Alphard also needed to destroy Okoshi research facilities. That was the crux of her plan. The problem was finding a way to infiltrate those facilities. In all likelihood, Alphard's scheme went something like this. Have Maria Osawa kidnapped, then infected with the UA virus. After that, eliminate Tanaka. Once Osawa learned that Maria had been infected with the virus, he was certain to use the antiviral on her. But he needed his partner Tanaka in order to access the storage facility, and Tanaka was dead. That was why Alphard had been masquerading as Kanan. Kanan was Maria's friend, and an expert at hacking passwords. If she could secure Osawa's trust, he would let her into the research facility in order to carry out the hack. And that's why Alphard, in the guise of Kanan, had saved Hitomi's life repeatedly. Getting Hitomi to trust her would likely earn the trust of her father. There were still some finer details that remained a mystery. This does explain a lot though, like, fake Kanan knew that the van was going to explode. How did anyone know the van was gonna explode, right? How did anyone know the kidnapping was gonna happen? Like, Fake Kanon knew too many parts of Alphard's plan. I mean, yeah, we're coming to the conclusion that she is Alphard. For instance, how was Alphard going to destroy the lab? It all really makes sense, like, as you look at it in hindsight. You know, Maria has that memory, right? Maria has a memory of Kanon giving Maria a picture of Stanley and saying, "Do not trust." I always was under the impression that Stanley knew what Kanon looked like because their interaction in the hospital. But I guess he never did. It's very interesting. He needed to move quickly and stop her from ever getting into the Akoshi facility. I fixed it. Daisuke approached Stanley and held out Maria's cell phone. So he heard the ringtone. Well, as best as I could at any rate. It looks like it'll get a signal, but whatever data was on it is all gone. I see. Stanley took the phone and put it in his pocket. He hoped he might be able to learn something useful from it, but luck evidently wasn't on his side. He was just going to have to go up against Alphard with what he already had. Now that he guessed what was really going on, Stanley went to talk to Kano. So he has this whole... Right, this is even before Kano... Kano just sent Achi out, I think, right? This is so wild. You need to go to Scramble without me, he said. What? Kano was visibly shocked. Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Please, don't ask me to explain. Something else has come up and I have to see to it. Stanley hated having to do this. He wished he could explain everything, but if he made any unusual moves now, there was a risk that Alphard would pick up on it. It was better to keep his companions in the dark, just in case. You know, so they all blow up at the same time. I understand, Kano said. Do what you have to, and come back soon. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more. It's alright. I'll find a way to get by. Kano gave him the thumbs up. This is a good picture of Kano. This is an excellent picture of Kano. The sight brought back some painful memories. Up until just a few hours ago, Stanley had instinctively seen Kano as all too naive. And now, he finally knew why. Kano was just like his younger brother, Frank. We're learning more about Frank, and by proxy Stanley. They might have looked very different, but in the way they mixed up their responsibilities with their personal feelings, they were totally alike. Stanley couldn't discount that naivety. In the end, it was all part of the human condition. Jack, are you really okay with this? Frank cast an anxious look at his older brother as they made their way onto the University of Chicago. A private university in Chicago, Illinois, lauded as one of the foremost research institutions in the US. More than 90 alumni have been awarded the Nobel Prize. The school has made a number of major contributions to the world beyond simple academics, including the construction of the world's first artificial nuclear reactor, Chicago Pile 1, and the Chicago School of Economics, a school of economic thought that stresses monetarism. It's my responsibility to look after you, Stanley said. As long as you take your studying seriously, I'm all for it. Frank had been worrying about tuition costs as he prepared for college. After losing their parents 5 years earlier, the two had struggled to get by. Yeah, but... Stanley set both hands on his brother's shoulders. Listen to me, Frank. You're my brother and I care about you. I just want whatever you do to be something you can be proud of. Alright, Jack, I hear you. And thanks. Kano, promise me one thing. What's that? Once this is all over, you'll go have a beer with me. Sure, alright. That's a promise now, remember? Kano flashed him a grateful smile. And in that smile, Stanley again saw a little something of Frank. Hurrying out of Endo Electronics, Stanley dialed up Tatsuno as he ran along. This might be her chance to see what the fuck's going on with Tatsuno. He is left alone with a very dangerous person. Once they made it past Shibuya Station, the roads were relatively clear. They ought to make it to the lab in no time. The phone rang again. It was Stanley. What's going on? He asked the American. Listen carefully. Your life may depend on it. I'm going to ask you some questions. If the answer is yes, say, that's right. If it's no, reply with, will do. For a moment, Tatsuno was bewildered. From the urgency in Stanley's voice, however, he realized that there was some kind of emergency. Emergency. That's right, he said after a moment's thought. That ought to let Stanley know that he understood the code. Is Kanan with you right now? That's right. That Kanan is an imposter. I love Tatsuno's, like, we don't get to see Tatsuno much, right? Most of the chase, we don't see his face. And the couple times we do see him with, like, Maria before he goes full on, like, I'm gonna kill you mode. He's kind of, like, just in this, like, sad, mopey cat mode, right? But, like, he's got a death glare. He has a really good death glare. It's her, Stanley said. She's Alphard. The detective had to stifle a gasp of alarm. I don't have time to fill you in on the details, but I've got some pretty incontrovertible evidence. Well, this is like you need to turn back now. Tanto struggled to come to terms with what he just heard. He glanced at Kanan through the rearview mirror. She was holding Maria tightly in her arms. Was this really all an act on her part? And if so, why? This would explain also why she didn't go out there until Maria had collapsed. There was only one possible reason. If Kanan really was Alphard, then she had only one goal. She was pretending to help Maria in order to get into the lab, where she would be able to steal the antiviral. But wait, hold on. Kanan was Maria's friend, wasn't she? Hitomi had said as much herself. Kanan is my sister's friend. Maria certainly knew what her own friend looked like. And since it was obvious that Maria might be present, it didn't make sense for a clever imposter to pretend to be Kanan. Or did it? When Kanan showed up on the roof of South Hill, making her surprise attack on Tatsuno, Maria had taken off down the staircase without ever looking back. And when she turned up at the Endo Electronics workroom, Maria had already collapsed and fallen unconscious. Tatsuno, how do you know that part? You got there later. I guess they filled them in. Tatsuno felt a chill spreading through his body. As far as he knew, Maria had never actually seen the girl who was now sitting in the back seat. But then, what about Hitomi? Shouldn't she have known what Kanan looked like? Tatsuno tried to remember just what Hitomi had said. Kanan is my sister's friend. I just met her for the first time today. If they never met each other before today, then maybe Hitomi didn't know what the real Kanan looked like. That was the only explanation that made sense. Hey, Tatsuno, are you still with me? Stanley sounded like he was on the verge of panic. At any rate, you need to find a way to turn back without her realizing what's going on. Even if Kanan really was Alphard, Tatsuno had to keep heading toward that lab. He went over the coded responses in his head. Yes was that right, No was will do. Will do, he said. Saving Maria is your top priority, isn't it? That's right, Tatsuno affirmed. Alright then. Guess I'll have to head that way myself. In the meantime, do not let her inside that lab. That's right. Tatsuno hung up. Who is that? Kanan asked. Tatsuno felt his heart skip a beat. That was Kuze, the cop from earlier. He tried to keep his voice as level as possible. He was worried about us and wanted to check up. Ah, okay. Kanan muttered, sounding disinterested. Tatsuno could only hope she hadn't guessed the truth. It felt like the Spectre of Death himself was breathing down his neck. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for Alphard to just be out in the open like that, right? Like Leland Palmer. I kind of figured it was a proxy, but you know, I didn't really think about the Kanan twist until Stanley found the photo. At last, the minivan arrived at Koshi Pharmaceutical. Tatsuno pulled up at the front gate and got out of the vehicle. Off to one side of the entrance was an intercom for contacting the security room. I'm assuming you've already heard the details from the director, Tatsuno barked into the intercom. Open up. We haven't heard anything from from Director Osawa, the security guard spat back. And moreover, the laboratory is currently on lockdown. I'm sorry, but not even Director Osawa is allowed inside. That's ridiculous, Tatsuno scowled at the intercom in frustration. Then a car came racing toward him along the street. It's Osawa! The sound of screeching brakes filled the air as the vehicle skidded to a halt, and then Kenji Osawa jumped out from the driver's seat. Maria! Osawa rushed over to Tatsuno, then to Maria, where she lay in the minivan. He looked carefully at his daughter's face. Oh, thank goodness. She still hasn't gone symptomatic. You know, I'm trying to remember. Osawa has seen Maria's photographs. He at least saw one of the Middle East, which recalled his trip to the Middle East with Maria. Now, I know that he doesn't really pay attention. He might not even know Kanan exists or whatever. I just wonder if he's seen a picture of the real Kanan while he was going through those photographs earlier. Mr. Osawa, why aren't people being allowed into the laboratory? Osawa tilted his head. They're not? Tatsuno explained what the guard had said. That's ridiculous. Osawa immediately called the security guard on the intercom. He got the same story. You gotta be kidding me, Osawa raged. I'm the lab director here. But the security guard wasn't hearing it. I'm sorry, sir. These orders came from Mr. Makino. No. So am I just supposed to sit out here and watch my daughter die? Tatsuno racked his brain for other ideas. Maybe they'd have to climb the gate and break their way in. Tatsuno, don't you remember that you're not supposed to let Alphard in? Then over the intercom, they heard the sound of a phone ringing in the security room. The security guard answered it without muting the intercom speaker. His voice was faintly audible. He sounded rather deferential. Who in the world could he be talking to? Before Tatsuno could muse further, the gate suddenly opened. FMV gate! Huh? Why? Tatsuno and Osawa looked at one another in surprise. I have a message for Director Osawa from Mr. Makino, the security guard said. From Makino? Osawa huddled over the intercom and had a brief Soto Voke exchange with the guard. I don't know a Soto Voke. Like single voice? Is that Soto Voke? What was that all about? Tatsuno asked. It would seem that my wife was able to pull some strings for us. Oh wait, did I miss the definition, or are you just saying that in general? Yeah, there wasn't a definition here, I don't think. There's one for wife. After Osawa left home, I had a change of heart. Even if it meant losing everything, she decided she wanted to save Maria's life. Although Maria was not Ai's real daughter, it turned out that the time they'd spent living together had sowed the first seeds of a familial bond. Osawa smiled uncomfortably. Tatsuno didn't have time to wonder what that meant. What that might mean. Has the lock been opened for us as well? He asked. The smile disappeared from Osawa's voice. No, she wasn't able to do anything about the final layer of security. I see. Well, let's regroup inside for now. Very well, Osawa said. By the way, who's going to be hacking the password? Oh, okay. I mean, I know Voke, right? I am, Kanan replied. Ah, so you're Kanan. We should get you to the laboratory then. Osawa began to lead the way inside. Kanan followed. If Kanan really was Alphard, Tatsuno couldn't let her into that lab. But without getting that lock open, there was no way of getting Maria the antiviral she needed to survive. What was the right call? Should he still pretend to be in the dark and let Kanan try to hack the password? Right, I mean, she's gonna pretend to hack the password. She knows the other half of the password. What is the play here? I feel like the game has taught us to, like, always never lose sight of what is, like that's the dictum number one, right? Never lose sight of who you to protect or whatever. And I feel like getting the thing to Maria makes more sense. He might have there might be a chance to him to they get it to Maria to get it to Osawa and then stop her, right? He was going to have to let her into the lab. Tatsuno had made up his mind. Is something the matter? Osawa asked warily. No, it's nothing. Then if you would be so kind. Osawa led the way. Kanan and Tatsuno followed him toward the storage facility. Maybe Tatsuno can turn this around. It took about 20 seconds for the elevator to reach the first basement level. The biohazard storage area was evidently fairly deep underground. The doors opened to reveal a long, straight corridor. There was a door at the far end, with a device at one side for checking IDs. Kanan approached the device, setting the laptop she'd borrowed from the security room on the floor in front of it. She affixed a scrap of paper with Kenji Osawa's password written on it to one side of the monitor. Then she connected a series of cables to both the laptop and the device. Tatsuno kept his hand on his holster as he watched her work. Kanan began to slowly tap away at the keyboard. Her screen displayed a series of numeric values that changed with each keystroke. She checked the changes carefully, timing the movements of her fingers according to some formula. The device let out a warning sound and the display lit up. Incorrect password. The input had been rejected. Was this really going to work? Tatsuno felt his impatience growing. Osawa's face showed a similar unease. Kanan turned to look at them. How many failed attempts are we allowed? 2, I believe, Osawa answered. After a third failed attempt, the storage area is locked down. It can't be reopened without input from the full board of directors. Kanan had already resumed typing before he finished speaking. There's a very slight difference in power consumption from the device when it processes a correct password compared to an incorrect one. There's a minuscule difference in the time it takes to run the process as well. If I can analyze those and compare them... Kanan's voice trailed off. She continued working. There was another warning sound. A second failed attempt. A single bead of sweat ran down Tatsuno's forehead. But Kanan didn't so much as bat an eyelash. Ah, I see. Her face remained full of confidence. It won't be a problem, she assured them. This isn't my first time with this type of mechanism. Yeah, well, this is 2008, you know, maybe they didn't know back then. That's now, this is a very, you know, TV crime drama, right? You gotta let them have their fun. Slowly, one at a time, Kanan pressed key after key while keeping her eyes on the laptop screen. With each keystroke, a waveform at the top of the screen, looking almost like an echocardiogram readout, wobbled slightly. The laptop let out a tiny sound. A sequence of 10 characters appeared on the screen, and Kanan read them off. Guys, what do you think Tanaka's password is? Oh. Tatsuno jotted them down in his notebook, then headed over to the scanner to enter the twin passwords for Osawa and Tanaka. Damn. That was hoping to be like a funny revelation. The door opened. Ah, it's password 2. Because Osawa has password 1. You can't have the same password. Kanan let out a sigh of relief. Osawa gathered up Maria and headed into the storage area. Alright, now's your time. Put a wrong password in. Then they'll be locked in, but they'll have the cure. Then you fight Alphard to death. Which I bet you don't win. Get out. As soon as Osawa and his daughter were out of view, Tatsuno drew his pistol. What are you talking about? They'll be in lockdown, but they'll be inside. The thing with the cure. They'll be okay. Kanan arched an eyebrow. What do you think you're doing? Just get out of here. Tatsuno pointed the barrel of his gun at Kanan's face. Silently, she did as she was told, turning and walking toward the elevator. He followed a few paces behind. He gave no hint of resistance. Now Tatsuno needed to let Stanley know that they'd successfully opened the laboratory door. He pulled out his cell phone as he followed her into the elevator. As soon as he did, Kanan pressed herself flush against the wall. A sudden explosion from within the corridor sent Tatsuno careening off balance. He slammed into the elevator wall. Cool. That was a cool picture, but I couldn't see it very long. Then as he lay in a daze, the elevator doors drew slowly closed, and the cab began to rise upward. Tatsuno could tell that the impact had broken several of his ribs. Blood rose up from his throat and filled the inside of his mouth. I mean, if we lose Tatsuno, we lose Tatsuno. He felt his grip on consciousness fading, but he managed to flip open his cell phone. Stanley, please pick up. He jabbed his thumb hard on the call button. Stanley here. What's going on? Hey, has something happened? Hey, answer me. But it was too late for Tatsuno even to hear Stanley's voice. No, okay. A wordless warning. Ah! I accidentally hit left trigger, and it did that. Well, we haven't got to see the screen yet. Look at Stanley. Look at Tatsuno. I love them. So what do we have? We have a Stanley jump to Tatsuno, which we did take, and we have a choice from Tatsuno. But maybe there's more to Stanley that we need. Maybe there's more information he gets. Ice cream cone. Listen carefully, your life may depend on it, he said as soon as Tatsuno picked up. He knew that the detective wouldn't be able to respond openly, since Alphard was right there with him. On the spur of a moment, Stanley devised a simple code for how he should answer yes or no. He told Tatsuno to respond with, "That's right" to mean yes, and "will do" to mean no. There's no time for anything more complex. Right now, Stanley just needed to stop Alphard from getting into the lab. He quickly explained his suspicions about Kanan. Tatsuno sounded distinctly unnerved. At any rate, Stanley said, you need to find a way to turn back without her realizing what's going on. Will do, Tatsuno replied. So, he was going to head to the laboratory despite Stanley's instructions. Saving Maria is your top priority, isn't it? That's right. The detective's affirmation was firm. Alright then. Guess I'll have to head that way myself. In the meantime, do not let her inside that lab. Well, I mean, I guess I messed that part up, but... we need to save Maria too, it's hard, right? That's right. Tatsuno was no match for Alphard. If she figured out what was going on, she'd probably kill him on the spot. Reassurance or encouragement would be meaningless right now. Instead, Stanley left Tatsuno with one final warning. Find some way to stall until I get there. If she realizes we're onto her, you're done for? Just keep Maria safe. That's your job. If it comes down to it, just shoot her. If you hesitate for a moment, she'll have you dead. Let's try that. If it comes down to it, just shoot her. If you hesitate for a moment, she'll have you dead. Tatsuno hung up without saying anything. We know that Tatsuno will kill. The area around Dogenzaka was in disarray. The government had declared a state of high alert, and the people on the street were milling around uneasily, unsure just what was going on. Modern-day Japan lacks both the infrastructure and the legal framework to properly deal with a large-scale bioterrorist threat. Coordination between the police, Japan's Self-Defense Force, the JSDF, health centers, and so forth would be a monumental task. In all likelihood, if a bioweapon was ever unleashed there, the target site would fall into chaos. I wonder how much, like, this is real, right? It's got the magnifying glass. I wonder how much this is like a criticism of Japan's government and how they handle stuff, because, geez, let's see, this is 2008, right? When is the earthquake? Is that 06? The earthquake's after this, okay. Huh. The main roads had been blocked off, and automobiles and motorcycles were at a standstill. Some vehicles had overturned on the curb in an apparent attempt to circumvent the blockade. Any moment now, Kano's team would be putting their plan into action at the scramble. Stanley wasn't sure who they might have gotten to help, but Kano was certain to put them to good use. Please stay safe. Don't you dare die on me. Stanley prayed silently as he darted underneath the railway overpass. The Blazer! He made it to his car, still parked on the roadside, and fortunately beyond the blocked off area. Huh, okay. Jumping in, he sped off toward the laboratory. When was the tsunami then? As he drove along, Stanley again tried to deduce Alphard's plan of action. If Alphard himself was on the way to the lab now, then what was the objective of the fake who'd been sent to the scramble? A call came in from Tatsuno. Stanley here. He picked up quickly, but as he did, he wondered, why was Tatsuno calling him? Alphard was right there. There's no way the detective should be risking a phone call. What's going on? Tatsuno said nothing. Stanley repeated the question. Still, Tatsuno did not reply. Stanley's apprehension spread like a drop of ink in water. Hey, has something happened? Hey, answer me. He didn't shoot her. We told him to shoot her on sight. If he ever got the inkling. The call cut out. Stanley hurriedly dialed Tatsuno's number, but he couldn't get through. Something had gone badly wrong. He was sure of it. Had he been too arrogant in thinking that he might be a match for Alphard? His worries turned to the team at the scramble. What if they had walked into a trap? Figuring that it would be too dangerous to call Kano in the midst of the negotiations, Stanley instead dialed up Achi. We don't have a keep out, we just have a bad end for Achi. Mr. Stanley? What's going on? To Stanley's relief, it sounded like things down at the scramble had gone well enough, so he asked Achi to put him on the phone with Kano. Yeah, give me a sec, the young man said. Detective! Stanley could hear Achi shouting on the other end. I've got Stanley on the line. He said that Detective Tatsuno... Kabooey. There was a sudden tremendous boom, and then the call cut out. Stanley's jaw dropped. He felt his mind emptied out by despair. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't even bring himself to scream. All he could do was curse inwardly, again and again. Stanley slammed his fist into the steering wheel as hard as he could. I'm sorry, this picture with the music is really funny. Then he did it again, and again, and again, and again. He didn't even stop when his fists were marred with blood. Okay, that one was good. Call cut short. Alright. So there's a couple things we can do. We can change what we tell Tatsuno. We can change what Tatsuno's decision making is on both the trip and at the lab. I wonder if telling Tatsuno anything else would help. Would Tatsuno listen? Find some way to stall until I get there. If she realizes we're onto her, you're done for. I don't think this helped. No. I like that it put us on the bad end. Like, nope, you fucked up still. Yeah, I don't know if Tatsuno will actually listen to Stanley. Just keep Maria safe. That's your job. But maybe this will make Tatsuno rethink his approach. No, bad. Okay, so it doesn't matter what Tatsuno said or what we tell Tatsuno right now at this second. It might matter eventually, but let us try to stall. But if we stall, she might figure it out that we're onto her. They couldn't go anywhere until Stanley got there. Tatsuno knew exactly what he needed to do. What's the matter? Osawa turned and cast a look of confusion back at Tatsuno and Kanan, both of whom had stopped in their tracks. We'll wait out here, Tatsuno said. But, I mean, isn't Kanan going to hack the password? There's been a slight change of plans. Go ahead and wait for us at the lab, Director. Alright. Well, we don't have much time before Maria develops symptoms. I'll be inside. Please don't keep me waiting too long. With Maria in his arms and a worried look on his face, Osawa hurried through the gate and disappeared from view. Why did she not say anything? What do you think you're doing? Kanan asked. Ah, that might have been why. Stephanie as Tatsuno nudged the barrel of his gun against her spine. You're Alphard, aren't you? I have no idea what you're talking about. There's no use trying to play dumb. Stanley found proof. Before he finished speaking, Kanan seemed to disappear from view. That was a really excellent, like, pan of her face going across the screen. She cartwheeled away at blinding speed, too quick for Tatsuno to keep a beat on her. Cause she's like crazy good. She's Alphard. By the time she'd righted herself, she'd already drawn a gun of her own. Abruptly, he found himself facing her in a stare down, weapons aimed at one another. Then Kanan's phone rang, and she reached to answer it. Don't move, Tatsuno roared. Did you forget the plan? That might be Hitomi calling. I don't care, don't you move. If Kanan really was Alphard, the whole plan might be a sham. Tatsuno kept the barrel of his gun squarely on its mark. Kanan let out a little sigh. Have you considered that Stanley might be lying to you? Yes, it's possible. But I need to make sure we avoid a worst-case scenario. If you don't let me into that lab, who's going to hack the password? We've got your little decoy. My friends will get the fake Alphard to cough up the password. Why would the fake Alphard have the actual password? If he's a decoy. Once her phone had stopped ringing, Kanan sighed again. And what about Stanley then? We don't have a Stanley. Is he on his way here? Who knows, Tatsuno said. At that, Kanan lowered her gun. She seemed disturbingly full of confidence. Kanan flipped open her cell phone. Who do you think you're calling? Tatsuno adjusted his aim, pointing his gun at the young woman's head. Look, I'm going to call Hitomi and have her clear up these suspicions you have about me. We don't have time for this right now. Wouldn't you agree? Kanan stared back at Tatsuno, cell phone in hand, waiting for his reply. It doesn't matter what Hitomi says. I trust my own judgment. Your own judgment, huh? And is that always correct? Kanan began punching in numbers. She never took her eyes off Tatsuno as she waited for Hitomi to pick up. She's not answering. Kanan hung up and tried calling again. It's me. It looked like she gotten through this time. That detective doesn't trust me. Apparently he thinks I'm Alphard, not Kanan. After a few moments, Kanan held the phone out to Tatsuno. It's a trick. Here, Hitomi says I'm definitely Kanan. Tatsuno didn't reach out for the phone. Instead, he advanced on Kanan with his gun still on its mark. This is a farce, Tatsuno spat. Hitomi's words don't mean a thing. You might be Kanan to her, but you aren't to me. I don't even know if there even was a real person named Kanan in the first place. So maybe you're Kanan. And you're Alphard. Kanan shook her head, then put her phone away. If you're really Alphard, then you don't actually need to hack the password, Tatsuno said. I'm guessing you've already gotten it from Tanaka. Which means you'll be able to get your hands on the antiviral as soon as you get into that lab. Kanan didn't so much as flinch. The only thing stopping you is the antiviral still in Hitomi Osawa's body. Possessing the antiviral and having a monopoly on it are two very different things. You want to eliminate Hitomi. That's why you lured her down to the scramble. Am I wrong? If that's true, then how am I planning on getting rid of her? Using the so-called substitute Alphard or something? Yes, that's right. Tatsuno couldn't be certain, but he couldn't think of any other way. Kanan let out a laugh. You don't know the first thing about Alphard, she said. Alphard keeps the outlines of his plans blurred, so that his deliberate actions just get lumped in with the coincidence. That's the crux of all his plans. That's how he's able to pull off all his schemes by himself. He'd never solicit from a third party. The words seemed like they were Kanan's, but also seemed like they were Alphard's. Whatever the case, Tatsuno had to let Kano know that Hitomi was in danger. With his gun still at the ready, he got out his phone and called the detective. This is probably bad. But the phone rang several times and nobody answered. Eventually he had no choice but to hang up. They must have been in the middle of a confrontation on the other end. For now, Tatsuno could only pray that Kano and the others would be able to handle whatever threat they were up against. I am not letting you in there. At that, Kanan let out a faint chuckle. In that case, I'm going to have to eliminate you. Even without her gun raised, she still radiated intimidation. Tatsuno might have had her at gunpoint, but he could feel the threat of her presence like a gathering storm. Eliminate me, he said, doing his best to mask any sign of weakness. You're the one who doesn't have your gun at the ready. I don't need my gun, Kanan said simply. And why is that? Because you can't shoot me. What's that supposed to mean? Kanan glared sharply at Tatsuno. Her look pierced him like a blade. Then, she quirked an unsettling smile and took a step closer to him. Don't move, he warned. Tatsuno said, I'll do this one. Try anything funny and I'll make sure you regret it. He kept his gun trained on the center of her chest. You can't shoot me. Kano took another step closer. You're still traumatized from that time you let your friend's wife die. How? How did you know about that? Tatsuno was shaking now, his aim wavering. I heard you talking about that younger detective up on that rooftop. That was right, she had been there. Let's test my theory out. Kanan pointed her index finger at her own heart. If you think I'm Alphard, then shoot me right here. Huh? The corner of her mouth twisted up. You can't do it, can you? Tatsuno's gun hand shook all the more. Damn it, I thought I could trust Tatsuno. You're afraid to pull the trigger. It was as if her words were a spell that she was casting over him. You can hardly even stand the thought of pointing your gun at someone. Tatsuno shook his head violently back and forth, but he couldn't get Kanan's words out of his head. Just keep Maria safe. That's your job. Okay, so we have the wrong words now. That's what Stanley had said. And he was right. Don't hesitate. Don't think. This was Alphard. A sadistic terrorist. He just needed to trust himself and pull the trigger. Pull it, pull it, pull it! There was a horrid visceral sound. Gastric fluids rushed up Tatsuno's throat. He pitched forward onto his hands and knees and vomited on the spot. The sensation of pulling the trigger, the recoil in the wake of the shot, it was exactly as it had been all those years ago. He never wanted to fire a gun again. At this point, he'd probably never be able to. Where were you even aiming? The voice had come from right in front of him. He looked up to see Kanan standing right there. His heart began hammering like mad. This was the end. He braced himself for oblivion, even as his body cried out to survive. There was the dull roar of a gunshot, and then silence. Dang. One last shot. I get the feeling that whatever we tell Tatsuno is not going to help, because he already took the shot, right? He was going to take the shot either way. It's just he is so traumatized that he can't do it properly, right? But Jack is freed up. Well, we did delay. Unless you mean delay during the car ride. But that might give us... Actually, do I even have that choice? We have the choice from a blocked path. The phone call from Stanley is not a choice. So the only choice I have right now is to send her in, which I didn't send her in. to call Hitomi or not, or whatever. And then the aiming at Kanan. You're right. I get the feeling he would have shot, though. Because the instructions are, find some way to stall until I get there. If she realizes we're onto her, you're done for. So, by the time those words hit Tatsuno, it's already too late, right? But let's see. Let's see what happens. So we're back to Tatsuno's choice. I don't think changing this choice is ideal. This is all the same, but it does change. Because I'm not allowed to go forward. You guys all okay with us going late? That's good. It is a Saturday night. Oh, this is different. So, we have the you can hardly even stand the thought of pointing your gun at someone. Kotone's final moments flash through Tatsuno's mind. If he hadn't fired back then, maybe Kotone would still be alive. Yeah, for me it's 2:30 a.m. Your friend's entire life was changed because of you. Why hadn't he tried to talk the culprit down? He knew the reason why. Because he'd love Kotone. He'd still love her even after she'd become Daisuke's wife. His desire to be the one who saved her had wrapped his sense of judgment when things had come down to the wire. But we gotta be almost finishing, right? Tatsuno, do you not enjoy being with me? There was a forlorn look on Kotone's face. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy being with her. Her very presence soothed him. But the more serious their relationship had grown, the more it tore at Tatsuno's heart. The truth was that he didn't really know what happiness was, and so he was incapable of making someone else happy. If it were possible, he'd want Kotone to be smiling always, and that meant her being with someone other than him. I think it would be best if we stopped seeing each other. Tatsuno blurted out the words bluntly, and Kotone's face fell. He hadn't broken up with her because of any lack of feeling for her. Rather, the impulse had actually sprung out of his pursuit of human warmth, and his growing fear of losing it. He'd just been so uneasy. More than anything, he'd been afraid that he wanted too much love and affection from Kotone. Aye. Bit by bit, Tatsuno lowered his gun, his hand ever more unsteady. His heart was on the cusp of breaking. And still, Kanan continued with her diabolical whispering. You can go ahead and kill me. But if it turns out I'm not Alphard, then what? Now she stared at Tatsuno with an almost pitiable look. That doesn't really look like a pitiable look. That looks like a sadistic smile. You'll have once more done something that you can never undo. Something I can never undo. Tatsuno repeated the words dully, feeling himself forced into a trance. That's right. Could you ever accept that? No, I couldn't. Couldn't make the same mistake. His whole body felt like it might fall apart. He wanted to drop to the ground and curl up in a ball like a child. And that's why you can't shoot anyone. I can't shoot anyone. As Tatsuno muttered the words, Kano's face appeared in the back of his mind. I can. Tears fell from Kano's eyes as he looked down the barrel of his gun at Tatsuno. He'd become a detective who didn't lose sight of what he was supposed to protect, no matter the situation. Tatsuno had nearly forgotten. Nearly abandoned his inward promise to be a detective worthy of that final salute Kano had given him. That was a really good cane drop. He brought his gun back up to bear. Don't be absurd, Kanan mocked. You can't shoot anyone. Actually, I can. The words creaked dryly from Tatsuno's throat. When there's something I'm supposed to protect, I can shoot. The memory of Kano weeping but taking aim had given him the resolve he needed to face down an opponent who ought to have terrified him. I learned that from someone who was terrible at his job. Kanan's eyes went cold. Immediately she lifted her gun up again. Once more their eyes locked, sparks of hostility crackling between them. But almost immediately, Tatsuno could sense the difference in skill between his opponent and himself. The young woman radiated a deadly aura. The force of her stare was like a knife pressed to his throat. She had borne witness to carnage and bloodshed, the likes of which he couldn't even imagine. He couldn't win this. She would kill him, guaranteed. Tatsuno braced himself for death, never taking his eyes off Kanan's. If nothing else, he needed to buy time for Kano to get that password. But could he do that, given the opponent he faced? Yes. Somehow he would do it. As a detective. As a man. Even if he had to give his own life to succeed. Even if I couldn't come close to making up for the sins he had committed. I think it's the end of Tatsuno. Yep. The end of his story. And... called it. Well, thank you for that help, Kajarden. You were right. I am surprised, though, how it changed. It didn't go exactly how I thought it would. Because he went straight into a flashback. Let's see how Jack's doing. The area around Dogenzaka was in disarray. The government had declared a state of high alert, and the people on the street were milling around uneasily, unsure just what was going on. The main roads had been blocked off, and automobiles and motorcycles were at a standstill. I'm just surprised it triggered the memories inside of him. Some vehicles had overturned on the curb in an apparent attempt to circumvent the blockade. Any moment now, Kano's team would be putting their plan into action at the scramble. Stanley wasn't sure who they might have gotten to help, but Kano was certain to put them to good use. Please, stay safe. Don't you dare die on me. Stanley prayed silently as he darted underneath the railway overpass. He made it to his car, still parked on the roadside and, fortunately, beyond the blocked-off area. Jumping in, he sped off toward the laboratory. Oh, okay. So instead of a bad end, we have a keep out. But our actions over here have given new life to Tatsuno and Achi. And we have Stanley's jump point still. Pulling out a cell phone, Kano dialed up Osawa. As he did, he recalled his last exchange with Stanley at the electronics shop. But no, that's at 1825, so that's not it. But this dialogue is different. Looks like we'll be able to have that beer together after all. Oh. I assumed Osawa would have picked up. No, it's definitely still that. So, whose phone is going off? Because we know that Osawa likes the song. We know that Hitomi... Yeah, this is getting counted as like a new bad end. I didn't know there was a summary option. Where'd the explosions come from? His lighter certainly had set the gasoline ablaze. Kano hadn't been that clumsy. So what happened? Only one possible came to mind. Palmer had blown himself up. Actually, no, let me see. The jump to Stanley? No, it said 825, right? What are Stanley's choices? That's what he tells Tatano. And he has a jump to Tatano. Let me make sure the Stanley jump is the 825. That would be when he's discovering the photo. Which we've already used the jump. That's why it's blacked out. Yeah, that's 825. So that doesn't match up with what we need right now, which is 1850. So how do we get him out of this trouble? Currently, Tatano is locked in a bad end with Stanley. Or, not with Stanley, with fake Alphard. Did we let fake Alphard get away? Now that we know he's not Alphard, the choices that let him get away might be different, right? But they still need a password. Oh, sorry, I goofed up. Was that not the Alphard flees? Oh, somehow I got past the screen. Okay, so we will hit new stuff soon, or it's the same bad end. But it'd be weird, right? Because we, the player, know that's not Alphard. Then he looked around for Palmer, but there's no sign of him. Damn it. The mastermind had gotten away, vanished without a trace. Amidst the frenetic crowd of the scramble, a lone criminal could blend in an instant, becoming just another pedestrian. Trying to find him now would probably be a hopeless endeavor. But maybe he gets a phone call. No, this gives us the bad end, even though we know that's a fake. Naz also put Achi in the same bad end. So let us do the thing we did last time? Well, he might have the password. I don't think he would, but he might. Alright, so we chase him. Why did he still seem so confident? Something didn't feel right. Maybe we need to call his bluff out. This is just a bluff. He knows he can't get away. His only chance would be to try to spread the virus around and then take off while everyone was distracted. Oh my god, Achi is going to call out what he does, which meant they needed to grab the guy and be done with it. Enough of this high and mighty act. Suzumu shouted. Evidently, he shared Achi's opinion. He began to stomp toward Alphard, but he didn't reach him in time. So this still happens. The vials in Alphard's hand went sailing. So the desperate shout had come from Hitomi. She'd spotted the vial sailing in a high arc away from the SOS members. That is when Achi goes and grabs it. Nice catch. So this is where my thing ends. Achi would have charged off and pursued as well, but his wounded leg made that impossible. Get him, detective. He murmured under his breath. We're counting on you. Wow, he doesn't even get a phone call from thing. Before he can complete his sentence, a massive explosion blasted Achi off his feet. Tiny bits of metal tore through his arms, legs, and torso. He crashed to the ground and crumpled like a tattered rag. There were screams coming from all directions, but as Achi started to fade from consciousness, the voices got softer and softer. So we got the same bad end. It's not letting me skip it as if I haven't seen it before. Maybe we have to play the gasoline game differently? Yeah, it was faster because there was never a... Well, it was Stanley you called in the car, but that hasn't happened because that's past the keep out. Remember, Stanley calls Tatsuno, gets no answer, so then he calls Achi because he figures he can't call Kano. You're right, but that technically hasn't happened because that's on the other side of 1850, you know? So, in this universe, it has never happened, that phone call of Stanley. So what are our options here? Our options are to... Kanan doesn't pick up, which hasn't changed. I mean, she's busy dealing with Tatsuno right now. We can play the gasoline different. I just want to know the password. If that's really what you're after, then you can't kill me. Palmer and Kano locked eyes, both refusing to back down. The scent of gasoline fumes filled the air around them. Kano knew that the slightest spark could set off a massive fireball. Maybe we do it. Maybe we fucking do it. Calmly, he flicked the lighter on. It's not letting me skip this. You can't be serious. Palmer's eyes fixed on the tiny flicker of flame. The password? You value your life so little. The password. In his mind, Kano could see the pages of the Dick Diary clear as day. Dick Dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, ever. Palmer glared in defiance. Kano brought the lighter closer and closer to the gasoline. He could practically feel his own life growing shorter as his hand descended. Oh, no, we are back in the ending. As he is getting the phone call. Or he's trying to make the phone call to Osawa. It didn't... It's really interesting that sometimes we get that ringtone for the explosion. And we know that Hitomi has that ringtone, and Osawa has that ring, or Osawa doesn't have that ringtone. Tanaka had the ringtone. I maybe should have read that text. That text could have been different. You know what's weird? Kanan called Hitomi. Yet that's not reflected in any of these timelines. Which, I mean, maybe Kanan was just bluffing. She didn't actually have to call anyone. What if we just punched the fuck out of this guy? What's up, Plombo? He hurt me and I'll hurt him back. That bill's gonna come due. Yeah, I mean, that is possible. But the choice is telling her not to call Hitomi, which she does anyway, or tell her to call Hitomi. Right? How does this change it? Oh, well, actually, no. Is stop. This is the sort of nonsense we don't have time for right now. This is sort of nonsense. I was afraid of changing anything for him, but this is sort of nonsense we don't have time for right now. Kanan shook her head and put her phone away. She doesn't call Hitomi. This is all the same, but I can't skip it yet. You want to eliminate Hitomi. That's why you lured her down to the scramble. You're right, because Hitomi's the phone call she gets triggers the explosion. How does that work out? Yeah, this is all the same so far. I haven't rated it to like a save point, which I think means like it. I think it has to make it to one of the save points before it will let me skip out of this. I think I could skip out right now, but wait, is this different? Hold on, I blanked for a sec. Yeah, this is different. I'm sorry. I apologize. With his gun still at the ready, Tatsuno got out his phone and called Kano. The young detective was quick to pick up. Okay, so the time has changed, and Kano has picked up Detective Tatsuno's phone call. Detective Tatsuno, what's going on? You need to get Hitomi Osawa to safety immediately. Alphard isn't trying to get at her blood. He wants her eliminated. What? Hurry. Yes, sir. Once he'd gotten Kano's confirmation, Tatsuno hung up. And now your little plan has been foiled, Tatsuno said. Kanan snorted. Has it now? If I really am Alphard, then all I need to do is eliminate you here and head right onto that lab. Even without her gun raised, she still radiated intimidation. Tatsuno may have her at gunpoint, but you could feel... Okay, now we're back. So... we have a jump. I mean, I don't think we need the jump, but maybe it'll help. 1905. Can't use it. We have to make it there ourselves. Which makes sense. This happens in the 1905. But maybe we have to hit a... What do you think we do? Do we do the showdown? Yeah, I think we do the showdown. So he thinks about Stanley. He's like, man, I love that Stanley. Looks like we'll be able to have that beer together after all. The phone rings several times before Osawa picked up. It's Kano. I have the password. Are you serious? Osawa blurted in shock. Here, let me give it to you. Are you ready? Yes. 59 FBA I4QL1. I don't know if that means anything. I'm too tired to figure out. As he passed along the alphanumeric sequence, Kano kept his eyes on Palmer. The man stared back at him with an expression of bitter defeat. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Then at last, Osawa's excited voice came through. Why would he have the correct password? Maybe as a failsafe? Alphard needs the doors open to the lab, right? So either she does it herself, or that they get it from the fake one. Well, yeah, I mean, she sent Osawa in. Yeah, I know why they did all this roundabout way. But I guess what I meant was, why does the fake have the password? If he's a fake. And he was gonna blow him up anyway. Right? Kind of let out a deep breath of utter relief, but it might just be because that still works in Alfred's favor, right? The doors have opened. I kind of didn't read that last line, did I? Oh, Kano let out a deep breath of utter relief. Huh. Palmer snorted. You're really satisfied with catching me and saving the life of one girl? I suppose it's the Japanese way to forget the pain that's been visited upon you. But it's not over. The bloodshed will continue. All over the world. Women, children, the elderly, innocent, all will bleed. Because absolute justice is on our side. Is that right? Kano drove his fist into Palmer's face. There was no such thing as absolute justice. It was that kind of blind faith that kept the world in conflict. Well, this sure is quite the mess. Whirling around in surprise, Kano saw Kuze standing there. The Director Kuze. He bowed his head apologetically. He may have apprehended the criminal mastermind, but only because he'd ignored a direct order to place Maria under quarantine. I'm sorry, sir, but I... Save the apology, Kuze interrupted. You're the one who solved the case. You did good, kid. Once again, Kano bowed, this time even more deeply. Oh, and one more thing, Kano. Yes, sir? Sasayama has regained consciousness. I thought you'd like to know. Sasayama's alive! Sasayama? They were able to save him. I got a call from the hospital. Looks like he's going to pull through. That's great. Really great news. Tears of relief came to Kano's eyes. And if Osawa was able to get the lock at the lab open, he should also have been able to get Maria the antiviral without any further difficulty. Kano dragged Palmer to his feet, then undid the handcuff from his own wrist, using it to properly bind his captive. The metal ring snapped shut with a soft, satisfying click. Palmer limply hung his head. It was over. It was finally over. It really had been quite a day, Kano reflected. Beyond all the challenges he'd faced, he had come face to face with his own shortcomings. Now he knew what a long way he had to go to be the man he wanted to be. But at least he learned what it truly meant to be a detective. Kuze was muttering to himself nearby. I mean, you don't even look alike, but... The director shook his head and cleared his throat. You know, Kano, for a second there, you look just like Tatano. Really, sir? Kano smiled, fussing sheepishly with his hair. Kuze's words were the finest praise he could have asked for. Someday, he hoped he really might be a detective like Tatano. No, he decided, he would be. And until then, he'd never give up on that dream. It might be a long, long road, but he would walk it. Kano looked up into the sky. The neon lights of the city shone from all over. This was the same old Shibuya that it always was. But one that looked at now with new eyes. One that he looked at now with new eyes. And? Keep out. Huh. Okay. So what is Achi's job in all of this? I don't think Achi's choice here does anything. He always throws the vials. It's a shame he comes to this conclusion. He doesn't have a chance to tell him, hey, he's gonna do this thing. He's gonna spread out the vials. Get ready. And also someone keep a track of him. Okay, so we're back to Achi's last line. Get him, detective. He murmured under his breath, we're counting on you. Well, okay. Well, we do have that Kano keep out. We have a jump. That was a possibility. Kind of interrupting Kano's nice little self-reflection. This was the same old Shibuya that it always was, but one that he looked at now with new eyes. His cell phone rang. Tatsuno's name appeared on the incoming call display. Kano quickly picked up. Right, we haven't had this phone call in this time period yet. Detective Tatsuno, what's going on? We had the Tatsuno end of it, but we haven't had this end of it. You need to get Hitomi Asawa to safety immediately. Alphard isn't trying to get at her blood. He wants her eliminated. Is it weird that that Tatsuno calls Alphard he? Despite having suspicions that it's the woman in front of him? What? Tatsuno wasn't making any sense. Alphard, Palmer, had already been arrested. The threat was over now. Hurry, Tatsuno barked. Yes, sir. Detective. Achi called out suddenly. He was standing with Hitomi and the others near the statue of Hachiko. Detective! That's not the real Alphard. He's a fake. A fake? Yeah, I just got a call from Stanley. Surprised it's not clickable. Kano didn't want to believe it. If this Alphard was just a decoy, that meant the real culprit was elsewhere, still on the loose. Right. It could have been a translation thing. Achi's voice rang with desperation. He said the real Alphard is planning to get rid of both Hitomi and the fake with some kind of bomb. To get rid of Hitomi... That lined up with what Tatsuno had just called to warn him about. It must be true then. Once again, Kano tensed. A bomb, but where? Get me the Explosive Ordnance Division, someone squawked. A team made up of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department Security Bureau's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 6th riot police units, as well as the Support Vehicle Unit Division members are trained in explosive disposal. Typically, a dangerous explosive is frozen with liquid nitrogen, then moved away from the site via support vehicle. The bomb is then detonated in a safe location behind the tokusatsu team. Explosives are almost never dismantled on site. We've got an emergency here. It was Kuze, practically screaming into his cell phone. We're at the scramble outside the station, hurry! The director started running toward the precinct, still shouting as he wove his way through the crowd. Kano felt himself starting to panic. If Hitomi and Palmer were the targets, the bomb had to be nearby. He stormed over to his captive. Ain't no way he knows about the bomb. Okay, where's the bomb? He demanded. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. I already told you the password, Palmer said. What point would there be in keeping things from you now? He had a point. And if he had known about the existence of the bomb, he'd kept it secret so far. Getting him to reveal it now would not be easy. Kano decided just have to go look for it himself. He took a deep breath and tried to think logically. If he were Alphard, what would he do? How could he ensure that he'd eliminate both Hitomi and the fake Alphard at the same time? Where would he plant a bomb in order to pull that off? On Hitomi, there's that way he can be certain he'd at least eliminate her. That way he could be. We do know that we do believe, and I think we're all right here in saying that Hitomi's cell phone is the trigger for the bomb. So I'm going with that. How did he get it on her is what I'm curious about. We know that Leland Palmer, fake Alphard, is what is that? What meta knowledge says A or C? Oh, you mean like what we're from Kano's point of view? Yeah, but we're the player. We have better power. Are we sure about that? Stopping the phone call stopped the bomb. And you believe that it might not be Hitomi's cell phone. It could be someone else's cell phone. I don't know. That part's hard. I don't remember for Achi. The thing about it, right, is that we've always been... The information we know is that Hitomi has that ringtone. We assume Stanley has Maria's phone on him? It gets a signal, but has no data. Gets a signal. I'm gonna go with this for now, but you might be right onto something. On Hitomi. That way he'd be certain he'd at least eliminate her. There's also the thing of like, he doesn't need, like he needs to eliminate Hitomi, as she is the last carrier of the antibody. Leland Palmer doesn't have to be eliminated. He's already spilled guts. I guess he could spill more guts, but he already spilled the password. I don't know. Now that Hitomi carried the antiviral within her body, Alphard couldn't risk letting her go. But I guess the question is, why didn't he blow her up sooner? Well, I mean, he didn't have the access. He didn't have Osawa. She didn't have Osawa. Alphard didn't have Osawa putting in his password, right? Right now we assume that the bomb is not going off because Tatsuno is holding Alphard, you know, at gunpoint. I mean, they're having a Mexican stare off or whatever. Alphard couldn't risk letting her go. If other terrorists happened to find out about her and managed to get a hold of her blood, it could undermine everything he'd done. Whether he succeeded or failed at getting the antiviral from her, killing Hitomi must have been a part of the plan. Pardon me, miss, Kano said. I just need to search you real quick. Hitomi hesitated, then gave a firm nod. Achi, keep an eye on this guy, Kano called out, gesturing at Palmer. Don't you have other policemen? If he tries anything funny, feel free to punch his lights out. Okay, sure thing. I would totally punch him. Kano carefully scanned Hitomi from top to bottom. A cursory look was enough to tell him that there wasn't anywhere on her person a bomb could feasibly be hidden. Nevertheless, he did a pat-down search just to be sure. She had her cell phone in her pocket, but beyond that, she wasn't carrying anything else of note on her person. That's the other thing. A bomb of that level couldn't be in a cell phone. Not that we're insinuating that the cell phone is the bomb, just that the cell phone is the trigger. Did you buy all the jewelry and accessories you're wearing yourself? Yes, most of them. The ring I got from my sister. What about your clothes? Oh, I bought them just this afternoon. The top I was wearing before got torn. I see. Kano sighed deeply. But I don't know about a bomb on Palmer. And the van? I don't know, the van seems like it'd be too silly that he'd go back to that idea 3 times. There was the initial van, and then this van. There was the van in the past, the initial testing of like sending some kind of viral attack. I forget what they called it. They had like a name for the attack. And then they had the van from today, and now another van. But I don't feel like the bomb is on Leland. I don't think the bomb is on any of these targets. No bomb. It wasn't there. Was Kano's guess off base? Or had Stanley just been jumping at shadows? Deciding he'd better check with the American, Kano got out his cell phone. Cell phone. Kano stared at his phone without dialing. That was it. People always kept their cell phones on them. If you planted a bomb on one, you'd be sure to eliminate the owner. Hitomi, you have to give me your cell phone. It's a bomb. It was the only explanation. He took the phone from Hitomi and went to power it on. Stop, Achi shouted. Don't turn that thing on. Why not? I don't know, it's just what Stanley said. He told me to make sure her phone stayed off. There was no doubt about it. This was it. On his own phone, Kano called Director Kuze. It's a little weird. So Stanley already figured out the bomb was the cell phone? It's Kano, I found the bomb. It's a miniature explosive inside a cell phone. Kano described the dimensions and weight of the phone. The director ordered him to stand by until the bomb squad arrived. Kano hung up and gently set Hitomi's phone down on the ground. Aw, it's got all those cute little, like, things that we don't have space for on phones anymore. Well, what do we do? Achi asked. For now, just let me handle this. We don't know when or how this thing might explode. You guys get out of here. But, look, just get out of here, Kano snapped. I'm just waiting for the explosive ordnance unit to get here. After that, I'll clear out right away too. Don't worry. Alright. Achi took Hitomi by the hand and turned to go. Oh no! An instant later, Kano's senses were knocked out of him by a thunderous explosion. See, they make this bomb seem really big. The blast was far too big to have come from something that size, the size of a cell phone. The bomb explodes. Number 69. I don't know if it's on him. Maybe it is a van. Or maybe the van gives him an idea to check something bigger. In the minivan, he was going to try the same ploy all over again. Kano thought back to the other van explosion earlier that afternoon. Alphard would need an explosion big enough to wipe out both Hitomi and the fake Alphard, even if they got separated. With that in mind, rather than plant a bomb in one fixed spot, he could use a minivan, which could be moved to wherever Hitomi and Palmer happen to be. Achi, it's in a minivan. Look for a minivan. It could be like any car, actually. But, you know. Kano scanned the area. There were plenty of vehicles parked all around, but no minivans. This seems strange. If the two intended victims were here now, he'd expect the bomb to be somewhere near as well. Still, he didn't spot a minivan anywhere. Kano ground his teeth in frustration, sweat practically pouring from his forehead. Was he wrong in his assumption? If he was wrong, where else could the bomb be hidden? His mind began to run in circles. Okay, you can do this, he told himself. Focus, just think. Focus, think. I'm a good detective. He had to trust himself and then take action. He decided he'd just have to start checking whatever vehicles were close by. Leaving the fake Alphard under SOS's watch, he ran for the nearest parked car. Aren't there cops now? He peered into the side windows. There didn't appear to be anything suspicious inside. Of course, if the bomb was set in the engine compartment or the trunk, a cursory check like this would never find it. Still, he hurried to the next car. He had to trust his detective instincts. This seems like a bad plan. Oh, you're stuck on the metal part. I just assumed that would be like shrapnel around. We don't even know where the attaché case is. He took the things out of it and then tossed the vials and then ran. He didn't have the attaché case when he ran. But if it is in the attaché case, I don't know how to get Kano to even consider that, right? Unless he considers Palmer. I guess that's right. Alphard had a certain criminal signature that Kano was sure would linger. Nothing abnormal here, no problems here, not this one either. With each car he checked, Kano's panic rose. About a minute, no 2 minutes had passed since he'd started searching for the bomb. Already more than 15 had passed since Palmer had appeared on the scene. The detonation could come at any moment now. Kano felt like he might crumple under the weight of fear. It might already be too late. He felt utterly defeated. And then he saw it. A small boxy minivan, and it was racing right toward him. The dry ice machine. It's the fucking dry ice machine, isn't it? That was it. It had to be. The van drew steadily closer, streaming a massive plume of white smoke. Kano sprang into action. Stop that vehicle! He rushed right into the minivan's path, bracing himself to stop it with his own body if necessary. The driver's compartment was filled with white smoke, making it impossible for him to see who was driving. The van might be unmanned. Stop! Kano shouted again. He knew it was probably pointless, but he had to try. I mean, you're probably right. I just think it'd be really funny if it was the dry ice machine. I mean, you know, it still could be. Kano survived, which I guess means that it's on Leyland Palmer. Kano rolled around. He could see countless bloodied bodies scattered across the pavement. What the hell had just happened? It wasn't the minivan that had exploded. The bomb must be hidden somewhere else. No, how? Kano crumpled to his knees. The minivan drove right on past him. The chilling breeze in its wake washed over him like the winds of despair. How funny would it have been if it was the dry ice machine? Look, we know that dry ice is not enough to freeze the bomb. Jack Stanley's brother made that joke. The bomb explodes. Oh, I hit L2 again. Why does L2 do this? I don't know. Why is L2 so easy to hit on this controller? Alright, it's him. That's not as fun. Maybe. Maybe that's how they do it. I mean, it's good that we know that the dry ice machine is coming. I guess all my things blanked out, so I guess we have to go with this. It would have been really funny if it was a dry ice machine. It would make sense. It came from Endo Electronics. Alphard was with Endo, or at least fake Alphard was with Endo at some point, and then came back the next day to put the virus in Maria. On the fake. There's no other place he could possibly have planted it. I get the feeling none of these are gonna work and we need some other information, but let's play along. Kano began to pat Palmer down carefully. Achi, he shouted, check the case, hurry! He gestured to the attaché case Palmer had been carrying. Oh. I mean, maybe they do get to the case from that. Don't move. Kano searched through the captive's jacket and the pockets of his pants. But he came up with nothing. Perhaps Alphard had fitted the bomb into the man's watch or belt. Stop this, I'm not carrying a bomb. Shut your mouth. But Kano couldn't spot anything suspicious about the watch or the belt either. He clenched his jaw in frustration. Did Palmer really not have it after all? Detective! It was Achi. He looked alarmed. Kano hurried over to him, dragging Palmer along. When he looked inside the attaché case, Palmer's face went pale. Okay, you're right, Kurislachi. You win. No, it can't be. Alphard, why? His voice was hoarse with betrayal. Then he abruptly broke into stilted laughter. Oh, he got mine broken. Trusting someone really does make you blind. Such a simple childish ruse. And it went right under my nose. I really liked the idea that it was the dry ice machine. Palmer looked over at Kano. We need to get out of here immediately. That right there is C4. A plastic explosive created for military use. The chief component is RDX. I'm not pronouncing that. Which is combined with a plasticizer such as diacetyl sebacate? I don't know. Is it? Are you asking me, Glossary? Is it highly reliable? Maybe. You're asking me. I don't know. I've seen it in video games. It seems pretty good. Is it highly reliable and is used by many military forces around the world, most notably the U.S. Armed Forces? A high-yield plastic explosive used by the military, and that's enough to blow this whole area to smithereens. That's a lot of C4 then. A chill ran up Kano's spine. Do not let this man go, he said, handing Palmer over to Susumu. Got it, just leave it to us. Susumu signaled to his followers, who immediately dumped Palmer unceremoniously on the ground. I mean, yeah, that's a big block of it. Kano carefully inspected the inside of the attaché case. Achi had found a false bottom in the case. The space beneath it was indeed packed full of plastic explosives. Set within it was what looked like a detonator. Kano didn't know much about bomb disposal. He'd only been taught the very basics during his police academy training. Nonetheless, something drew his eye. A microphone. There was a parabolic microphone attached to the detonator. In all likelihood, the detonator had been set to go off in response to some sort of sound. Hey, detective, is that thing gonna explode or not? Achi's voice was shaky. It looks like it's sound activated, but it hasn't gone off just from having people talking nearby. That means it must be set to explode in response to a specific sound trigger. A specific sound, huh? Achi took a moment to think. That's it. It must be Hitomi's ringtone. That's why Stanley had me power her cell phone off. Why was this information delivered to you? So that means we're safe then? Hitomi asked. It's not going to explode anymore, right? Kano had to fight back any feelings of relief. They couldn't forget that this was Alphard they were dealing with. Assuming they were safe would be a dangerous mistake. Here's a fun thing to consider. Hitomi's ringtone is the song from that idol, which also is on like the screen on the building. We don't know if that screen will play the song. That could be a fun way for Alphard to have a backup timer. Carefully lifting up the detonator, Kano spotted another cable connected to the bomb. As calmly as he could, he tried to remove the plastic explosive from the attaché case. It's just a normal timer. That's not as fun. Get me to write this. He quickly discovered that the thinly stretched sheet of plastic explosive was only an intermediate layer, concealing a second false bottom. A small timer had been set beneath it. There's not just a sound trigger. Kano's mouth had gone dry. His voice came out as a whisper. The bomb has also been fitted with a countdown timer. Stanley had been right on the mark. The ringtone of Hitomi's cell phone would trigger the explosion. That way Alphard could eliminate both her and his stooge, Palmer, at the same time. But just in case the sound trigger were discovered, as a backup, the bomb had also been rigged to explode after a set time. Kano speed dialed his boss. Director Kuze, where's that bomb squad? 150. Not even 2 minutes left to go. It didn't look like the explosive ordnance unit would make it in time. Kano scanned the area, weighing his options. He noticed Achi standing right beside the bomb case. Achi, he called. Leave that thing and get out of here. But Achi didn't move. No way. He sat down, the attaché case cradled in his arms. Achi, what the hell are you doing? I'm hugging it. I'm not going anywhere until everyone's made it to safety. Detective, you need to get these people someplace safe right away. Clear the area first, then I'll go. But there's no way I could do that. Damn it, don't you want to save these people too? Kano bit his lower lip in frustration. Achi was right. If the bomb went off amidst a crowd like this, there was no telling how many casualties there'd be. He needed to do whatever he could as quickly as possible. Get back, everybody, get back, Achi shouted at the top of his lungs. There's a bomb! Everyone get out of here! Just run! Following his lead, Kano started directing nearby civilians to safety. Hitomi, Susumu, and the others added their voices to his. There's a bomb! Everybody run! Get away as fast as you can! Please, all you have to do is get out of here. I know, I didn't see that space. But the crowd wasn't listening to their warnings. On the contrary, some people hurried closer to see what the commotion was all about. That is so like people. It was no use. They were out of time. Kano had to save Achi at least. He turned back to him and called out. Achi, that's enough. Leave the bomb and let's go. Achi, Hitomi shouted. Come on. But Achi only clutched the bomb more tightly. What are you doing? Kano screamed. Come with us, hurry. Still, Achi would not move. Suzuma's face went pale. Wait, Achi, your leg. What about my leg? Earlier, when you kicked that steel pipe? What the heck? Finally, Kano understood. It wasn't that Achi didn't want to move. He couldn't move. And so he decided to get all heroic and use himself as a human shield to minimize the impact of the explosion on everybody else. That idiot, Kano muttered. If his leg was busted, why didn't he say so? How'd he even make it this far? There couldn't be much time left. If Kano rushed to help him now, he might not make it to safety before the bomb went off. He had to make a decision. He couldn't just rush in without a plan. Kano ran for Achi anyway. He couldn't just abandon him. I feel like Kano would probably rush in without thinking. Kano ran for Achi anyway. He couldn't just abandon him. Achi was being an idiot. He wanted to sacrifice himself for the greater good. But Kano wasn't going to let him do that. To have someone else be your shield, to have them up and give their life for yours. Achi had no idea how hard that would be on the people he left behind, even if it did save their lives. And until he was capable of comprehending that, Kano wasn't going to just let this kid die. He reached Achi in a matter of moments and grabbed him by the shoulder hard. Let go of the case now! But Achi reflexively hunched lower. What the hell are you doing, man? Why'd you come back here? Just come with me. We have to get out of here. Look, you need to run. I can't move. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Kano squatted down and looked Achi right in the eye. Okay, you can't move on your own, so I'm going to help you move, and unless you want to kill me, too, you better cooperate. Damn it, don't be a fool, man. The strength... this is like two dumb people arguing. The strength ebbed from Achi's hands. Wasting no time, Kano pulled the case away, then slipped an arm around Achi's side. Their legs got entangled as Kano dragged Achi to his feet. Come on, run, the detective shouted when they were upright at last. They needed to get as far away as possible in the few seconds they had left. Kano didn't know how big the explosion was going to be. Palmer had said it would be enough to blow the whole area to smithereens, though. And there had been true terror in his words when he said that. They just needed to keep moving. Keep running as fast as their legs would take them. Achi! Hitomi shrieked. Kabu Oogie. Oops, I left the controller on my desk and I forgot this game has Rumble. Doesn't come up very often. Oh no, they died. There was a blinding flash of light. Then everything went dark. The force of the blast robbed Kano of his senses. He couldn't tell what had happened to Achi. And in the end, Kano never even knew what cut his own life short. The bomb explodes. So Achi is still in a keep out. We haven't had a jump to Achi. And Stanley is still at a keep out. I don't know if changing this decision is gonna do much. Unless the dry ice machine makes it. Maybe a plan is all he needed. He couldn't just rush in without a plan. A detective needed both a cool mind and a fiery spirit. I mean, I think this probably will work, maybe. It's just, I like the idea of him being dumb and having a dumb off of Achi. And the more heated the situation was, the more he needed to stay cool. He could feel the muscles in his legs begin to stiffen. He did his best to slow his racing heartbeat as his mind sought desperately for a way out of the situation. But his eyes remained fixed on Achi, holding that bomb in his arms. Knowing that it could explode at any moment made it almost impossible to think. The harder he tried to calm himself, the more his panic grew. He cursed himself for not leaping into action immediately. He should have acted before thinking. That was the only thing he was good at. And he stood frozen, staring at Achi. We forgot to consider that Kano is also dumb. Then he felt the hairs rise up on the back of his neck. Oh my god, are you getting lucky? He already gave up. He's already like, I guess I can't do it. White smoke was pouring from an approaching minivan. The vehicle teetered to a stop along the shoulder of the road. Still, the smoke spilled out, roiling from the partly open window. Kano could feel a strange chill in the air. Is that? Instinctively, he rushed towards it. This only happened because Kano decided to have a plan. Peering through the minivan's windows, he saw a clunky box-shaped device in the back. It was rumbling fiercely, spitting out an unending mound of white clumps. A dry ice machine! Hey! Kano yelled, banging hard on the door. Open up! By freezing a bomb that used an electronic activation trigger, it was possible to kill the battery cell that deactivated the detonator. The explosive ordnance units used liquid nitrogen, but maybe dry ice would work as well. Nitrogen that has been cooled to a liquid state, with a temperature below negative 195.8 Celsius. It can be poured onto explosives to stop the function of components, such as the battery cell for the detonator. However, in situations where the surrounding area can be safely secured, it is preferable to destroy the explosive via detonation, rather than simply arrest its function. Carbon dioxide in solid state. Because it evaporates at minus 79 degrees Celsius at standard atmospheric pressure, it must be kept refrigerated, where it rapidly dissipates into mist. Thus, its use in smoke fog machines. The odds of dry ice being able to stop the detonator of a bomb are quite low. Battery cells do lose electromotive force in a sub-zero environment, but there's no guarantee that this would actually work. Kids, don't try this at home. There were 3 men inside the vehicle, huffing all the fumes. Kano shouted at the one in the driver's seat, I need to borrow that machine. Huh? The man replied in a lethargic drawl, I'm gonna take a drink. No way, man. We haven't even paid this thing off yet. There's no time to explain or negotiate. Kano was just going to have to take it by force. Hold it right there. Another man appeared suddenly in front of the vehicle. The pushy fellow Kano had run into at the scene of the explosion. You guys are with that Wandering Angels theater troupe, yeah? He said to the van's occupants. I'm so glad he's here. I mean, it makes sense. He was with Achi's. He was with the SOS. So if the SOS came here, he came here, probably for his story. I'm just surprised we haven't seen him until now. Oh, it did it! Episode 6, the finale. The minivan carrying Tozuka, Bando, and Amo veered widely through the streets of Shibuya, leaving a trail of white smoke in its wake. The trio, now definitely impaired by oxygen deprivation, came close to causing several accidents. Teetering on the brink of consciousness, they were still trying to reach Endo Electronics when they ran into Kano and his companions instead. After Kano takes the machine off their hands, the three will happily head back to the theater, clean up, crack open some beers, and look back over one long crazy day. He pointed at the dry ice machine. That thing's defective. The guy from the electronics store said he'd refund your deposit. Thanks, Minorikawa. Huh? For real? Yeah, he told me to tell you that the machine had been recalled. I kind of fucked up. We'll bring it back for you. So hurry up and open the door. Yeah, okay. This is a good picture. Yeah, okay. The newcomer helped the 3 men unload the dry ice machine from the minivan. Then he turned to Kano. Here, hurry up and take it, he shouted. Right, thanks. And then Kano just grabbed it with his bare hands. I'd be funny if he just grabbed the dry ice. Kano wasn't sure what was going on, but he took the machine and ran, pushing it ahead of him across the pavement. This is also a wonderful, wonderful picture. I assume it has wheels, maybe? Achi, Hitomi wailed, tears in their eyes. The detective blew right past her, trailing a billowing plume of white smoke in his wake. Please let me make it in time. Please let me make it in time. Please let me make it in time. Kano let loose a wild yell. He ran as fast as his legs would take him towards Achi and the bomb. I know I'm gonna get a keep out. Oh, to be continued. I'm a little worried about the time that we're in right now, though. We're already in 3:35 a.m. I don't have Achi. I don't have Achi. I don't have Achi. I don't have Achi. Does this old Achi jump? Yeah, that must be it. They're on the same time period. I didn't consider this jump because it had been a jump we'd used already. But that was a different timeline. Suzumu! Achi shouted at the top of his lungs. At his signal, the gang emerged from the crowd. Let's see if we can speed this up. So Achi gets his choice about the bluff. Then we have the get him detective. Wait, how am I back here? Isn't this where the keep out is? Did I break free of this? It's weird that it sent me... What? So I need a jump that puts Achi later. I need a jump that puts Achi later. I need a jump that puts Achi later. There's no reason... Wait, this jump point works. But, yeah, I've taken it already. And it puts us at 1855. I think I need something that happens after 905. Or 1905. I think I need... He has a jump point for Tatsuno. And he gives the warning... which sets off all this. Is it possible to get an Achi jump point out of him? I don't want to pull this trigger if I don't have to. It's not that you don't want to pull that trigger. It's that you can't pull that trigger. Gadan took another step closer. You're still traumatized from that time you let your friend's wife die. No, this is all normal. So changing that choice doesn't change that. Calling Hitomi stops the bomb. He has a jump to Stanley. Wait, he has a jump to Stanley. Maybe I thought this was a different jump to Stanley. Or no, I didn't have this jump to Stanley. I tried to use it. It didn't work. It didn't work when I thought we could use it. I forgotten. So Stanley got to his car. That's why this whole time we have information from Stanley, but we haven't seen it. because we didn't have access to Achi. Stanley actually existed in this timeline. As he drove along, Stanley again tried to deduce Alphard's plan of action. If Alphard herself was on the way to the lab now, then what was the objective of the fake who'd been sent to the scramble? To act as a decoy, I guess. To act as a decoy. Surely that was the imposter's purpose. But it wouldn't be a simple matter of providing a brief distraction. Alphard had been careful to wipe out almost everyone she'd associated with in the past. This was precisely why all of her defining characteristics, such as age and sex, nationality, had been unknown. It was unthinkable that she'd allowed this decoy, who almost certainly knew who she really was, to stay alive. And since Hitomi carried the antiviral in her body, Alphard likely wanted to get rid of her as well. In all likelihood, the terrorist mastermind was planning to steal the antiviral from the lab. But as long as some of it remained in Hitomi's bloodstream, she wouldn't have a monopoly on it. There's a fly flying around. Aha! Stanley suddenly blurted out. He just realized what Alphard hoped to accomplish at the scramble. She meant to eliminate both Hitomi and her own decoy at the same time. The question was how. Beginning with her bombings in Chicago, Alphard had made frequent use of remote-controlled explosives. I don't see anything on my end. Everyone good? Okay, that might have just been you, Kurislachi. It was likely that she'd opt for something similar here as well. But she wasn't going to be at the scramble herself. So how in the world was she going to trigger the explosion? Was there some clue to be found in something she'd said earlier or done earlier? Think. Try to remember. Think. Try to remember. If he didn't do something, everyone at the scramble is probably going to die. Then, as he desperately racked his brain, he remembered something Kano had said. It had been a while. It had been while they were at the scene of the minivan explosion together. He said he heard a cell phone ringtone at the time of the explosion. Not sure if that's significant, though. No, I'm sorry, Kurislachi. Stanley recalled the recent exchange between Alphard and Hitomi. The two had called each other's cell phones. Alphard hadn't really been checking to make sure she had the right number. She'd been checking to make sure Hitomi hadn't changed her ringtone. That was it. The bomb was set to detonate in response to a specific piece of music, and the ringtone on Hitomi's phone was the trigger. Where could the bomb be hidden then? Stanley didn't have time to think. He needed to alert Kano and the others right away. As he pulled out his phone again, he recalled the map of the stakeout positions. Kano would probably be right next to the decoyed Alphard. It might be a mistake to call him, under the circumstances. Maybe he couldn't risk calling Kano, but he could call Achi. Stanley dialed Achi Endo's number. Please, don't let it be too late. He muttered to himself as he waited for the call to connect. Achi was quick to pick up. Oh, we have Achi now. Mr. Stanley? What's going on? Damn it! I mean, I kind of had a feeling, but, you know. I get the feeling when Stanley gets to the lab, that's where shit's gonna really pick up. Right now they gotta figure out this bomb, but I meant with, like, the Alphard stuff. Like, it's stupid, like, I got him! Eventually, Achi spotted Kano at the far edge of the crowd. The detective pumped his fist in victory. It looked like he'd gotten Alphard to cough up the password. Thank goodness. Finally, some really good news. Now Hitomi and Maria were both safe. A surge of relief ran through Achi's body. Bing, 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 bing. Unexpectedly, his cell phone rang. It was Stanley. I mean, I could jump back. Does it actually work? Please don't let me be too late, he muttered himself as he waited for the call. Achi was quick to pick up. Mr. Stanley, what's going on? How did negotiations go? The detective called Alphard, Achi replied happily. He got him to give up the password, and I think he's calling the folks at the lab. Does that mean the case is closed then? No, not yet. Right now I need you to do exactly as I tell you. There was a pause before Achi responded. Why? What's going on? If you want to save Hitomi, then shut up and listen, Stanley snapped. Alright, tell me what to do. First, you need to power down Hitomi's cell phone. Turn off her phone? What for? I'm pretty sure there's a bomb somewhere near your location. Stanley tried to keep his voice as calm and steady as possible. A bomb? Achi's voice squeaked into falsetto. The guy that Kano had just apprehended is a decoy. The real Alphard is planning to eliminate Hitomi, and the false Alphard is at the same time. Stanley didn't have time to explain that Kanan was Alphard. Besides, it would only confuse the matter all the more at this point. Listen, first, turn off that cell phone, then go and look for the bomb. Okay, got it. Achi hung up. Hopefully the team at the Scramble would be able to pull through. Now Stanley needed to focus on capturing Alphard. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His emotions were coming on far too strongly for him to keep them in check. In the back of his mind, Stanley thought about the last he'd ever seen of Frank. There had been nothing left of his brother but a bloodied hand reaching out from beneath the rubble. Damn. Ever since that day, since that very moment, Jack Stanley had sworn vengeance upon Alphard. He would never forget the rage he'd felt at having what was left of his family taken away from him. Hey Jack, once this is all tidied up, I'm gonna need a drink. Let's you and me have a beer together. This fucking thumbs up. I guess it's the same thumbs up Kano gave, which makes sense because they're both similar in Stanley's mind. Sure, you got it. Stanley sprang into action, leading away the throng of panicking civilians. But all the while, he couldn't help but worry about Frank. We've got almost 30 minutes left. He'll be fine. Backup will definitely be here in time. He did his utmost to reassure himself, but still the doubts gnawed. When the bomb squad descended upon the area, clad in their protective gear, Stanley shot a look at his watch. Oh, look at their gear! Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit suits, also commonly called bomb suits or blast suits, worn during bomb disposal operations to protect the wearer from the shock of a blast or from any hurled fragments an explosion may produce. Such a suit is, however, wholly inadequate to protect the wearer from a large, powerful explosive, such as several hundred grams of C4, detonated at close range. He felt a surge of relief. Only about 15 minutes had passed. There was still plenty of time for them to deactivate the bomb with their liquid nitrogen. Thank God. Frank's gonna be alright. But he got no chance to relish that thought. No, Frank. There was an ear-splitting boom as a powerful shockwave shook the area. Stanley whirled back around, staring in horror at the place that his brother had been. Nothing remained but a mound of rubble. A later investigation would reveal that the timer on the bomb's exterior had been a mere ruse. The explosive had never linked to a timer at all. Instead, it had been detonated via remote control. When electrical detonators capable of triggering an explosion with electrical current were invented, they quickly rendered old-style fuses obsolete. In the modern day, many terrorists use small electronics such as cellular phones and keyless entry remotes for cars as explosive triggers. Alphard had deceived them, using a visible timer to lull them into a false sense of security. Stanley had managed to save many lives that day, to be sure, but it had come at the cost of his own brother's life. Had he really made the best decisions he could have made? He was still asking himself the same question, over and over, even now. But no matter how much he blamed himself, it wouldn't bring Frank back. If there was one thing he could still do for his brother, it was getting revenge on Alphard with his own hands. Stanley had been in constant pursuit of Alphard ever since. He would stoop to any level for information without remorse. His opponent was someone who would do anything at all to achieve a goal. It only made sense for him to do the same. At some point, he'd stop even hesitating to get his own hands dirty. He would charge headlong into any danger if he sensed Alphard's presence. Even his own life was a price he was willing to pay in the name of vengeance. He could never hope to latch his jaws onto his quarry's throat if he behaved like prey himself. He must be the greater predator. He would cast aside his humanity, would become a blood-stained beast if that improved his chances at the hunt. For the hunt was all that mattered. Pursuit of Alphard had become his only purpose. So it had been for the past 2 years. Now those years flashed through Stanley's mind in the blink of an eye. As he came back into the moment, he marveled at his own ferocity and at the depth of the wound he suffered. If I don't get my revenge, or if I do get my revenge, what would Frank think? I don't think Frank would want you to sink to her level or kill her. If I do get my revenge, what would Frank think? When Stanley pictured his younger brother, it wasn't with a smile on his face. The realization gave him pause. In the end, killing Alphard wouldn't bring his brother back. That went without saying. But although he could see now that revenge was an absurd goal, his heart still churned deep and dark with resentment. Finally, the Okoshi Pharmaceutical Laboratory came into view. Okay, chat, I need to talk. I'm a little hoarse. We've been going pretty long. I think what I'm gonna do is get Achi to where Kano is. Right? Bond diffused. Maybe. And then maybe we finish this up tomorrow. I didn't think it'd be this long. I was trying to like get some idea of how long it would be. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. That's why I kept asking during today, like, should we start early? What should we do? You know, I was trying to just get an idea. It's fair that you don't remember. It's just, again, I didn't know. Oh, I guess we haven't seen this from... I've seen these words, but we haven't seen them from Achi's standpoint. Unexpectedly, his cell phone rang. It was Stanley. Mr. Stanley, what's going on? How did the negotiations go? Achi quickly filled him in on the good news. Oops. I don't know how I did that. Did I do this correctly? Because it's putting me pretty far back. Where's Stanley? I need a jump point. Or maybe I'm not as far back as I think. This should get me back to Stanley's jump point. Yeah, I guess I wasn't as far back as I thought. But it wouldn't let me skip. It's kind of weird. Because we've seen this. No, we jumped back to Stanley, I guess. Mr. Stanley, what's going on? How did the negotiations go? Achi quickly filled him in on the good news. The detective called Alphard. He got him to give up the password, and I think he's called the folks at the lab. Does that mean the case is closed then? No, not yet. The Stanley voice also gives me pause. Right now I need you to do exactly as I tell you. For a moment, Achi's head swam. This isn't over yet? Why? What's going on? If you want to save Hitomi, then shut up and listen, Stanley barked. Alright, tell me what to do. First, you need to power down Hitomi's cell phone. Turn off her phone? What for? Was Stanley serious, or just messing with him? I'm pretty sure there's a bomb somewhere near your location. A bomb? Achi's voice squeaked into falsetto. The guy that Kano just apprehended is a decoy? Or, that's Stanley. The real Alphard is planning to eliminate Hitomi and the false Alphard at the same time. Eliminate both Hitomi and his own decoy? Why would he do that? And if the guy they just captured was a fake, then who is the real Alphard? He couldn't wrap his head around it. The more he tried, the more his thoughts became a jumbled mess. Listen, first turn off that cell phone, then go and look for the bomb. Okay, got it. Right now he just needed to do what Stanley told him to do. He didn't have time to make sense of the situation. Hanging up, he called out to Hitomi. Hitomi, you have to turn off your cell phone. She stared back at him, too confused to act. Look, just hurry and do it. Right, okay. Pulling her phone from her pocket, she switched the power off. Then Achi turned in Kano's direction. Detective, he shouted. Kano was looking toward him, seemingly already aware that something was amiss. Detective, that's not the real Alphard. He's a fake. A fake? Kano looked understandably shocked. Yeah, I just got a call from Stanley. He said the real Alphard is planning to get rid of both Hitomi and the fake with some kind of bomb. Kano hurriedly turned back to the fake Alphard and began a fresh barrage of questions. Thank you, Minoxie. I hope you have a good night. We are gonna finish this tomorrow at some time. I have an appointment with the cable provider from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. But then afterwards, I should be free up to do the stream once I figure out dinner. Well, I'll figure it out. But you have a good night. I'm gonna try to wrap up here shortly too. My voice is very hoarse, and doing the voices for a long time is what gets me. I'm not used to doing voices. Meanwhile, Achi's mind was racing again. If the bomb was meant to wipe out both Hitomi and the imposter... Oh yeah, and thanks for the raid, Minoxie. It would have to be pretty powerful. So it couldn't be anything particularly small. Where could the bomb be hidden then? Achi scanned the area but didn't spot any place that seemed plausible. Then his eyes happened to alight on the attaché case the decoy had discarded. Could it be? No, Kano shouted at you. No sooner had his suspicions been aroused than he heard Kano call out to him. Achi, check the case, hurry. He hurriedly opened the attaché case and searched the interior. But the only things inside were pieces of medical equipment, tubes and syringes and the like. There was nothing that looked remotely like a bomb. Still, where else could the bomb possibly be hidden? Damn it. He had to find the explosive, and soon. He took another hard look at the case. I feel like this is the most Achi answer, and it might get them all exploded, but I also feel like this is the most Achi answer, and I need to see it through. I'll smash it apart. Achi lifted the case high overhead, intending to hurl it against the ground. But as he was about to throw it, he heard a faint metallic sound. Quickly, he lowered the case again. Damn it. He was certain the noise had come from inside. Once more, he opened the case and looked inside, but still saw nothing of note. He tossed the medical equipment aside and slowly tilted the case from side to side. Although it looked empty, there was a distinct sound of something metal sliding back and forth. Hold on, could it be? Achi tugged at the case's inner lining, quickly tearing it free. That's so much C4. When he looked behind it, his eyes went wide. A thin layer of something that resembled white clay had been affixed inside the cover of the case. Several wires connected it to a small electronic device. This was it. The bomb really was inside the attaché case. Here it is, he shouted to Kano. I found it. Kano hurried over, bringing his captive with him. There, Mr. Palmer, take a look. When he saw what was inside the attaché case, the fake Alphard went pale. He actually dropped to his fucking knees. No, it can't be. Alphard, why? His voice was hoarse with betrayal. Why did you not think the Alphard would kill you? He would kill like anyone. Then abruptly he broke into stilted laughter. Trusting someone really does make you blind. Such a simple childish ruse, and it went right under my nose. The fake Alphard, Palmer, looked over at Kano. We need to get out of here immediately, he said. I was just repeating what he said. I don't know. That right there is Steve. Look, Tatsuno is staring right at Alphard. This is different. Alphard's not in the scene. Everyone else is referring to Alphard still as a male. Explosive used by the military. And that's enough to blow this whole area to smithereens. Blow the whole area to smithereens? Achi pictures Shibuya reduced to a blasted ruin. Meanwhile, Kano frantically began searching the insides of the attaché case. It's 4 a.m. Let me have room for error. A microphone, Kano muttered. Hey, detective, is that thing gonna explode or not? Achi tried and failed to keep his voice from wavering. It looks like it's sound activated, but it hasn't gone off just from having people talking nearby. That means it must be set to explode in response to a specific sound trigger. A specific sound, huh? Now Achi understood Stanley's instructions. That's it. It must be Hitomi's ringtone. That's why Stanley had me power her cell phone down. So that means we're safe then. Or, that means we're safe then, Hitomi asked. It's not gonna explode anymore, right? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet our lives on it. Kano continued his examination of the case. He carefully loosened the bomb and the cables, pulling them away from the lid of the case. The sight made Achi's heart leap. Then Kano went stock still, as if caught in a hungry predator's gaze. There's not just a sound trigger. The detective's voice was a raspy whisper. The bomb had also been fitted with a countdown timer. Achi could see the timer now. It had been planted underneath the plastic explosive. His blood ran cold. Director Kuze, where's that bomb squad? While Kano made a desperate call to the police, Achi picked up the attaché case and peered inside. The digital timer was steadily ticking down the seconds. Achi scanned the nearby area. There were too many people around the scramble. Hitomi was there. Susumu was there. Several more of his old pals. Along with a bunch of innocent bystanders. The people are the lifeblood, Achi reminded himself. The blood that coursed through the body that was the city. Like cells, they brought life to the city he so loved. Achi wanted to be one of the red, or was it white, blood cells of Shibuya. Achi, Kano called out. Leave that thing and get out of here. No way. Achi sat down, cradling the case in his arms. Achi, what the hell are you doing? I'm not going anywhere until everyone's made it safely. Detective, you need to get these people someplace safe right away. Clear the area first, then I'll go. But there's no way I can do that. Damn it, don't you want to save these people? Achi snapped. Kano bit his lower lip. Hitomi wrapped her arms around Achi from behind. Achi, don't do this. Hitomi, you need to get out of here too. Why? Why are you acting so crazy? Tears blurred her words, and he could feel her trembling against him. It doesn't matter, just get as far as you can. No. No, I'm not leaving you. After the day they'd spent together, Achi knew full well that that telling Hitomi something once wasn't enough to get her to listen. That stubbornness was one of the many things that made her so amazing in his eyes. Yeah, but he doesn't know which one. Hitomi. Achi clasped one of her hands tightly. Please, this is the one favor I will ever ask of you. His voice came out oddly soft and gentle. Alright, she told him. But let me just say one thing first. There are still so many things I want to talk to you about. So much more that I want to know about you. So please, Achi, don't you die on me. Hey, don't worry. Once everyone's made it to safety, I'll clear out of here right away. Hitomi squeezed his hand, then got up and silently hurried away. Suzumu, you and SOS start getting people out of the area. Yeah, alright. Suzumu turned away and spurred the gang into motion. Then, for an instant, Achi's eyes met Kano's. Achi gave a tiny nod and looked down at the timer. 119, 118. Get back, Achi shouted at the top of his lungs. Everybody get back. There's a bomb. He held the attaché case tight against himself as he continued shouting. He ran his voice raw, trying to warn the crowd away. Everyone get out of here, just run. Following his lead, Kano started directing nearby civilians to safety. There's a bomb, the detective shouted. Everybody run. Get away as fast as you can, Suzumu waved, his arms emphatically. Please, Hitomi added. You all have to get out of here. But the crowd didn't heed their warnings. At last, apparently deciding that the time was up, Kano turned back to Achi. Achi, that's enough. Leave the bomb and let's go. He could hear Suzumu and Hitomi shouting as well. There's no time left, man. Achi, come on. 57, 56. The way Palmer had talked about this bomb, it sounded like a pretty dangerous one. It might be powerful enough to blow up the entire intersection. And there were still so many people nearby. There was no chance they'd be able to get to safety in the few dozen seconds that remained. Achi needed to minimize the force of the blast as much as possible. He cradled the bomb more tightly to his chest, huddling over it. What are you doing? Come with us. Hurry, screamed Kano. Will you ever jump for Kano? I don't know how powerful this bomb is, but please God, let my body be enough to protect the people of Shibuya. And to protect Hitomi. Achi squeezed his eyes tightly shut. I'm sorry, Suzune. Look like I won't be able to visit you in the hospital anymore. You'll forgive me though, right? I stuck it through to the end, just like you told me to. I didn't call it quits partway through. And so whatever you do, you can't let that disease beat you. Don't you dare let it beat you. Achi drew a deep breath as he finished his solitary little prayer. He couldn't have more than a few seconds left to go. Achi! It was Hitomi. Oh, Achi! He was glad that her voice was the last thing in this world he'd ever hear. Or so he thought. Okay. That we can't give that up. I was waiting for the save message. Yeah, it should be okay. We're right here. Okay. We have this wonderful picture of Jack. Or of, not Jack. Frank. Stanley is heading to the lab. Tatsuno is currently staring down Alphard. Dry ice machine jump scare, and then Achi's like, how's that supposed to help? How's ice get dry? And And then they shove him in the dry ice machine with the bomb. Kano is currently with the dry ice machine. I think I need to wrap up tonight. I'm sorry, everyone. I wanted to finish it in one big finale, but we lost an hour of time to the internet, and honestly, it was just a lot more than we could take. I don't know if it's gonna end just like quickly. Obviously, he's already done. But what kind of figured in my head is that Kano is at to be continued. Kano isn't at end. Kano's at to be continued, so there is more to be done than just this bomb, I think. But yeah, I think we'll finish this tomorrow. I'll try to announce it on Twitter. I have an appointment, but it's like the window is 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern. So they can show up at any time during that. So at some point after 5, I don't know how long they'll take. If they get here at the last possible moment, I don't know how long it'll take. So just like hit me up on Twitter, and oh yeah, looking over here, it makes my eyes get closed. I'm gonna look at the sensitivity stuff. My throat is really sore. I have some cough drops. I might suck on one tonight, or have some tea. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. I'm gonna close the game. Oh, I can't close the game. Usually when I close the game, it's because we're at like the character select screen. I can close it, but we're not at the character select screen. Every time I go back, it just goes back to the game. So I'm just gonna hit X. It's saved. I have faith in it. PC port. Don't let me down. Oh, okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you so much. Sorry about the internet. Oh yeah, it doesn't like it. Yeah, I guess I can raid, but I feel like everyone's gonna go to bed. I just don't think I'm gonna raid, and I'm sorry. I just don't have the energy. I just opened my stream thing, and it says MP83, unfinished business with a wooden puppet. Category, Woody Poco. I don't think he's doing it right now. I don't think I see Woody Poco in the thumbnail. But no, he's playing the Famicom version right now. Maybe he already got through with the MP. Oh, he's in distraction time, which means he's usually watching a video. So maybe he beat the MSX one and is now watching a long play of the Famicom one. Interesting. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. You all have an amazing night. They're farther than me? How dare they? MP83 is the guy who's like, he went through like every MSX game and ranked it, and then he sent me this the Excel spreadsheet about it. Yeah, looking down sometimes gets the blink to happen. Like when I look at chat, I'm gonna have to play with the camera, play with the lighting. There's gonna be a lot of work. I might not be using this program in the future, and I might be doing something completely different. And you're gonna see that someday. I'm doing a lot of work behind the scenes for a new Snake Man, a new look. Anyway, yeah, tomorrow, Shibuya Scramble. I'm sorry about today. I will probably make the video on YouTube like a two-parter. I have to figure out what a good part to stop it on is. Maybe the reveal of the bomb might be a good part. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. I might need to wait until we figure out the ending to see how much video there is. Anyway, good night, good evening, good morning. I'm out of here. Take care. Drink some lemonade. Lemonade's good for your throat. Have a lemon tea. Have an herbal tea. Citrus. Citrus is good. Have a citrusy tea. I think I only have matcha. Good night. Good night. I'm bad at goodbyes when I'm not raiding. Bye.